After my husband died in a car accident, he left behind tens of millions in debt. For some reason, every IOU had my fingerprint on it. I was forced to repay the debts and had to sell my company and all my assets just to barely clear them. After paying off the debts, I was left penniless and had to kneel, begging my in-laws for help while caring for my sick daughter. My in-laws are well off, yet they refused to help and kicked us out. My daughter passed away in the hospital due to inadequate medical care. After her death, my best friend suggested I donate her organs so her life could live on. I agreed through tears. Years after the surgery, while working as a cleaner at the mall, I unexpectedly ran into my supposedly deceased husband, laughing and chatting with my best friend, his arm around her. When they saw me, my husband and best friend smiled and revealed the truth. It turned out his death in the car accident was a lie. Their real goal was to make me pay off the debts. Saving our daughter was just a pretense. Their real goal was to harvest her organs for my husband and best friend's child. Consumed by rage, I fought them both, only to be shoved down the stairs and killed. I woke up back in time, one day before my husband's fatal car accident. Part 1. I jolted awake from the nightmare drenched in cold sweat, only to find the space beside me empty. My husband, He Wen-wei, who should have been sleeping there, was nowhere to be found. As I looked around, I realized I was back in the master bedroom of our old villa, not hunched over cleaning some shopping mall. I ran barefoot to the next room and saw my daughter sleeping soundly. Only then did it truly sink in. I had been reborn, but the grief of losing He Wen-wei, the helplessness when our assets were liquidated, the despair after my daughter's death, the rage at being betrayed by my best friend Li Jinyu, none of it had been a lie. He Wen-wei and I fell in love freely, married right after college, and built a rock-solid relationship. I handled the outside world while he managed our home. 2 years into our marriage, our daughter was born, my business flourished, and life couldn't have been better. I was always the center of attention at every class reunion, and I truly felt heaven had favored me. But tragedy struck suddenly. He Wen-wei died in a car accident. Less than a week after his death, creditors were practically breaking down our door. That's when I found out He Wen-wei had racked up tens of millions in debt in just 1 month, and every single IOU bore my fingerprint. Despite my desperate explanations that those weren't my fingerprints, my protests fell on deaf ears in the face of overwhelming evidence. The court ruled the debt valid, and all my company assets were seized and sold to pay it off. I was left penniless and thrown out of my own home. It never rains but it pours. My daughter was diagnosed with kidney failure at this time. To get her proper treatment, I asked my in-laws for a loan, but not only did they refuse, they said it was the retribution I deserved. Fortunately, my old friend Li Jinyu happened to be visiting relatives from out of province with her child. Her child was born out of wedlock, and when she was pregnant, it caused quite a scandal locally. No matter how much people pressed her, she never revealed who the father was. In the end, to escape the gossip, she moved to another province. Running into her at the hospital was a coincidence. She paid for my daughter's hospitalization, but it was too late. After a few days in the hospital, my daughter passed away. I was utterly heartbroken. Following Li Jinyu's suggestion, I arranged for my daughter to be an organ donor, allowing her life to live on in others. When I opened my eyes again, too, I've wanted to end it all countless times, but for my daughter's dying wish, I had no choice but to keep dragging myself through this miserable existence. Years slipped by like this. While hunched over cleaning at the mall, I spotted He Wen-wei, who should have been dead, looking nearly identical to how he did years ago. Stunned, I walked over to him. He looked me up and down and quickly recognized me. "Oh, it's you. How did you end up in such a state? What a disgrace." I was just about to confront him when a woman's voice came from behind. "Honey, who are you talking to?" I turned around and saw Li Jinyu walking over with a smile. Her expression shifted for a moment when she saw me clearly, but she quickly regained her composure. "Oh, it's you. It's been so many years. I thought you were long gone. I see you're still hanging in there." The two of them embraced affectionately right in front of me. I was so furious I could barely speak, but Li Jinyu added, "By the way, I haven't thanked you yet. Thank you for helping Wen-wei and me pay off our debts and giving us financial freedom, and thank you for donating your daughter's heart to my son, allowing Wen-wei's son to grow up healthy." So it was all a lie, just a scheme between the two of them. I used to wonder why Li Jinyu stopped contacting me after she got pregnant. I thought she was afraid I'd look down on her, but it turns out she just saw me as an enemy and didn't want anything to do with me. I wanted to tear those two to pieces. I rushed at them and we started brawling. but how could my frail body possibly overpower two well-maintained men? In no time, they dismissed me as a madman and shoved me down the stairs, killing me instantly. He Wenwei came upstairs and snapped me out of my thoughts. Honey, what are you doing standing here? I forced a smile and said, it's nothing. I just remembered there's a document I haven't finished. You go ahead to bed. I'll wrap it up in the study and join you later. He Wenwei just nodded and gave me a phony reminder to get some rest soon. I strained to recall my past life, knowing that He Wenwei would pass away in a car accident tomorrow, so him being up in the middle of the night just now, he must have gone to tell Li Jinyu about it, right? I slowly made my way downstairs and smiled at the pitch-black garage. Fine. Since you're willing to risk your life for tomorrow, I'll give you a chance to make that dream come true. 3. The next afternoon, I received a call from the hospital. I made my way to the hospital without haste, only to find He Wenwei already covered with a white sheet. This time, though, it was soaked in blood, a stark contrast to before. His parents, He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying, were sitting by his side, putting on a show of crocodile tears. As I approached, the police introduced themselves and explained the cause of He Wenwei's death. Mr. He might have been distracted while driving and failed to hit the brakes, crashing directly into the mountainside. The speed wasn't particularly high, but for some reason, the fuel tank exploded. Despite efforts to save him, he unfortunately passed away. I didn't cry. Instead, I felt like laughing. Just as I was about to step forward and lift the white cloth to take a look, Jiang Yueying rushed up and slapped me across the face. You have no right to see my son. You're the one who brought death upon him. Ever since my son married you, our family has known no peace. First, you forced him to quit his job and become a house husband, then you gave him a daughter instead of a son, and now that he's dead, there's not even a male heir to carry on the family name. He Zhizhong also rose to his feet, trembling with anger. Get out of here. You don't deserve to stand in this place. Their reactions were exactly the same as in my previous life. It seems they were well aware that He Wenwei's death was staged. Back then, they drove me away by threatening to take their own lives, all to help him pull off his disappearance at the crematorium. I held back my laughter. But this time, I won't let you have your way. Instead of leaving, I dropped to my knees and said, Mom, Dad, I'm heartbroken about Wenwei's death too. If beating me will make you feel better, then go ahead and beat me to death. But as Wenwei's lawful wife, I have both the right and the duty to see him off on his final journey. I spoke loudly, and even the police and traffic officers couldn't help but speak up for me. Please take care of your health, elders. This accident has nothing to do with Ms. Yang. 4. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying had no rebuttal, so they made me kneel aside. As time dragged on, they grew increasingly restless. Their eyes fixed on He Wenwei lying in the hospital bed. Jiang Yueying suddenly changed her expression and brought me a bottle of water from outside. I gave the cap a slight twist and found it had already been opened. Tears welled up as I shook my head. Mom, I know you care about me, but I really can't drink this. You and Dad should have it. The three of us went back and forth refusing the water until it ended up spilled all over the floor. Jiang Yueying slapped me across the face once more before leaving in helpless frustration. Even when the hearse arrived, they still hadn't come up with a solid plan. Exchanging a glance, they seemed resigned to taking things one step at a time. After all, faking one's death is no simple feat. Getting to this point has cost He Wenwei a tremendous amount of resources and effort. I didn't drive myself but instead got directly into the hearse and rode along to the crematorium. On the way, I made the necessary phone calls to the crematorium to ensure everything was arranged. Only after confirming that He Wenwei could be cremated immediately upon arrival did I finally feel at ease. Once we reached the crematorium, He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying stopped me from pushing He Wenwei into the incinerator. Puzzled, I said, Mom, Dad, Wenwei has already passed. With the weather this hot, if we don't proceed with the cremation quickly, the body will start to decompose. Jiang Yueying stammered, that won't do. So many relatives and friends haven't had the chance to see Wenwei one last time. No cremation. Mom, Wenwei always cared about his dignity in life. Do you really want everyone to see him like this? I abruptly pulled back the white sheet, revealing He Wenwei's severely injured body, so disfigured that only those who knew him intimately would recognize him. Jiang Yueying was startled by the sight but quickly composed herself. 5. He Zhizhong turned away, avoiding the gruesome sight of He Wenwei on the bed, and chimed in with Jiang Yueying's sentiment. That's right, Jingjing hasn't even arrived yet. Do you really want your daughter to miss her last chance to see her father? I sneered inwardly. How dare you even mention Jingjing? If you had been willing to help in the previous life, Jingjing would never have died, let alone become a living organ bank for He Wenwei and Li Jinyu's child. I shook my head. Jingjing has always been timid since childhood, and she loved Wenwei the most. If she were to see Wenwei in this state, she would never find peace for the rest of her life, no matter what. I insist on cremating Wenwei. I want everyone, including Jingjing, to remember only his handsome and dashing appearance. He Zhizhong didn't say a word but spread his arms wide, blocking me firmly. I am Wenwei's father, and I have the right to prevent his cremation. You have no say in what happens to my Wenwei, Mom, Dad. I know you can't accept Wenwei's death, but what's done is done. The right thing now is to let him rest in peace as soon as possible. With that, I gave a signal, and people immediately rushed over to assist He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying to a nearby chair to sit down, seeing that He Wenwei had already been pushed into the cremation chamber. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying were so frantic they could barely contain themselves. The anguish on their faces was far more genuine than their earlier theatrical sobbing. As the door of the cremation chamber closed, Jiang Yueying could no longer hold back. No, Yang Shiyu, my son isn't dead, my son is still alive, you're committing murder, this is outright homicide. I sighed. Mom, I know it's hard for you to accept Wenwei's death, but what's done is done. You and Dad need to face reality. He Zhizhong knew he couldn't keep up the act any longer and quickly spoke up. Wenwei isn't actually dead, he was faking it. 6. What? I looked at them in disbelief. How is that possible? I saw the footage of Wenwei's car accident myself, and there's even a death certificate. How could he not be dead? Mom, Dad, are you both losing your minds? I gave the staff a nod and said, go ahead and fire it up. My parents are just so overwhelmed with grief that they've lost their minds. The staff member nodded back and immediately pressed the incineration button. Jiang Yueying let out a piercing scream and, with a sudden burst of strength, broke free from the people restraining her. She rushed over to the operator and shut off the flames. This sudden turn of events left everyone in the room stunned. Seizing the moment, He Zhizhong charged toward me, grabbed me by the throat, and snarled, let my son out, let him out now, or I'll strangle this bitch. I winked at the person standing farther away. He quickly nodded in response, pointed to the action camera in his hand, and flashed an OK sign. The staff signaled to He Zhizhong not to make any rash moves and quickly pushed He Wenwei out after he had been burning for a few seconds. Jiang Yueying rushed forward to extinguish the flames on He Wenwei, while He Zhizhong shoved me aside and threw himself down next to He Wenwei. Caught off guard, I fell and my fingers were badly burned and mangled by the scorching stretcher. The onlookers, who had never seen family members so unwilling to accept the death of a loved one, sighed with pity and urged me, once the cremation is over, you should take the elderly couple to the hospital, they're probably having a mental breakdown. Tears welled up in my eyes from the pain, and I nodded, gritting my teeth. Mom and Dad only had Wenwei as their child. It's only natural they'd react this way. Someone fetched gauze and bandaged my injured fingers and palm. Only after everything was taken care of did I sigh and say, Mom, Dad, the dead can't be brought back to life. Why are you putting yourselves through this? Don't worry, Jingjing and I will take good care of you in Wenwei's place. 7. Jiang Yueying shrieked, shut your mouth. If my son loses so much as a single hair, you'll pay for it. The fire on He Wenwei's body had been put out by He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying, leaving an indescribable stench in the air, like charred barbecue, foul and pungent. Figures a stinky man would reek this badly after just a short burn. He Zhizhong patted He Wenwei's face and said, Wenwei, wake up, stop pretending. If you keep this up, this woman really will cremate you. Jiang Yueying chimed in, Wenwei, let's not fake your death anymore. We can get a divorce, we'll still get the money. There's no need for this charade, you've scared your parents half to death. I cried out loudly, Mom, Dad, what on earth are you talking about? Wenwei and I have such a deep bond, how could he possibly fake his death to deceive me? Seeing that the truth was out, Jiang Yueying dropped all pretense. You wretched woman, a barren hen, my son has long been disgusted with you. Who said anything about a deep bond? It was all an act for the money. This whole fake death scheme was to make you pay off his debts and force you and your useless daughter to live like sewer rats. I never imagined you'd be so vicious as to try to cremate my son. I looked both stunned and heartbroken. How could this be? He Zhizhong kept muttering, a woman who only cares about herself, making a grown man stay home to take care of the kids and do housework. you're turning the natural order upside down. We've already shown you mercy by not finishing you off. Wasn't it only right to deceive you? The commotion drew a crowd of onlookers, all buzzing with chatter. What the hell, they pulled it out halfway through burning it. That's disgusting. Did they die or not? As expected, a scumbag man always has scumbag parents behind him. 8. I wept bitterly. So what you're saying, Mom and Dad, is that Wenwei's car accident was fake? I wondered how he could hit a mountain driving so slowly, and why you absolutely refused to let me come to the crematorium. It turns out it was all an act. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying nodded. So what if it is? Let me tell you, we're not afraid of you. Tomorrow we'll file for divorce in court to make you split the assets equally. Then we'll sue you for intentionally harming our son and attempting to murder him. We'll leave you penniless and ruin your reputation. Even at this point, they still hadn't come clean about Li Jinyu and the child. Probably trying to avoid He Wenwei losing more assets due to marital infidelity. I nodded coldly. Fine, He Wenwei, how very noble of you. Get up, we're getting divorced tomorrow. It was then that He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying noticed something was wrong. Why was He Wenwei still lying motionless despite all the commotion? They exchanged glances, both finding it strange. I sneered. What's the matter, He Wenwei? Brave enough to do it but too cowardly to admit it. He Zhizhong also frowned. Get up already. Everyone knows the truth. So what's the point of pretending? Jiang Yueying sighed in exasperation, glancing at He Zhizhong. I guess Wenwei was afraid of being caught, so he probably took something on purpose. It's fine, let's help him up together first. We'll go home and figure things out there. As they spoke, one held his hand and the other supported his head, trying to lift He Wenwei up. But what happened next made He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying scream repeatedly before passing out on the spot. In fact, it wasn't just He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying. Everyone present was so terrified by the sudden turn of events that they nearly fainted. Only I remained calm, standing firmly in place. 9. I stared coldly at the scene before me. Jiang Yueying, dazed, casually tossed He Wenwei's head. It rolled and tumbled to my feet. I gave it a swift kick, sending it over to He Zhizhong, where it came to rest against He Wenwei's own severed hand. The staff, though seasoned, had never seen such a gruesome scene with body parts scattered everywhere. They looked to me helplessly and said, Ma'am, even if your husband wronged you, the deceased deserves respect. Please gather the remains for cremation. This is just not appropriate. I wouldn't touch that bastard again if you paid me. I nodded and pulled out my phone. My hand's injured, would you mind handling the cremation? I'll pay. Is 50,000 enough? The attendant nodded like a woodpecker. More than enough. Of course you shouldn't handle remains with an injury. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. I transferred the money. The staff immediately collected the scattered head and limbs from the floor, tossed them onto the stretcher, and wheeled it back into the crematorium. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying remained unconscious. I left them to their fate, with no one to stop it. The cremation went smoothly. In just half an hour, that scumbag He Wenwei was reduced to ashes. His cremation was taken care of. I made a call and sent Jingjing, who was still in elementary school, abroad. I knew a tough battle was coming, and I didn't want her involved. Besides, Jingjing had always been in good health. Why did she suddenly suffer kidney failure after He Wenwei's death? And why was it such a coincidence that the day she died was exactly when she could save the son of He Wenwei and Li Jinyu? I suspect He Wenwei deliberately drugged Jingjing to cause her kidney failure, all to save his and Li Jinyu's child. Either way, getting her out of the country was the best move. Once I've sorted everything out, I'll bring Jingjing back. 10. I brought He Wenwei's ashes home and held a funeral. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying regained consciousness, and though they were bewildered about how a planned fake death turned into reality, they quickly came to terms with He Wenwei's actual passing. After all, they still had a grandson and millions in assets left by He Wenwei. After some thought, they realized that whether He Wenwei was around or not didn't really matter anymore. At the funeral, those creditors from the previous life showed up with the IOUs in hand. I pretended to have just learned about He Wenwei's debts, denied ever putting my fingerprint on those documents, and even arrogantly declared, every debt has its debtor. I, Yang Shiyu, had been dominating the business world for years. You think I'd be intimidated by scum like you? These creditors were no saints. Provoked by my words, they started causing a scene right at the funeral. One of them grabbed He Wenwei's ashes and threatened me, if you don't pay up, I'll scatter your husband's ashes right here. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying didn't faint this time, but their faces turned pale with rage. Jiang Yueying clutched her chest and pointed at me. Yang Shiyu, that was your husband, are you heartless? With all the money you have, what's the big deal about paying his debts? Wen Wei is dead, don't you know the deceased should be respected? I watched coldly, then suddenly laughed. Uncle, auntie, if it weren't for what you said at the crematorium, I would have been willing to repay the debt even if it meant losing everything, but now, not a chance. I believe the law will be on my side too. The creditors could no longer hold back. They scattered He Wenwei's ashes all over the ground and stomped on them repeatedly with their feet. Li Jinyu had arrived at some point, holding a little boy's hand. Both of them stood pale-faced, staring at the ashes scattered across the floor. I could practically hear Li Jinyu's heart shattering. The little boy, who was about the same age as Jingjing and old enough to understand, burst into tears. Where's daddy? Where is my daddy? I glanced at Li Jinyu with a smile and said, Jinyu, is your son's father here at the funeral too? Why don't you call him over so we can all catch up? Li Jinyu's face turned pale, and after a long pause, she shook her head. The child is just talking nonsense. Li Jinyu was clever enough to know that, with He Wenwei already cremated, even if she claimed the child was his, there was no evidence to back it up. She had no choice but to stay put and wait. 11. Soon enough. The creditors took me to court. I hired a large legal team and presented bank statements to prove that every penny of my money had a legitimate source. None of it came from He Wenwei's loans. On top of that, I explicitly renounced my inheritance rights to He Wenwei's estate, so his debts had nothing to do with me. The only asset under his name was a car, which had been reduced to a charred frame in an explosion during an accident, leaving no property to seize, naturally. The creditors demanded a fingerprint match. I raised my still healing, badly burned fingers and declared, Your Honor, my father-in-law, He Wenwei's father, severely burned my fingers. Even after they heal, there will be no fingerprints left. They clearly knew this and deliberately forged my prints. In the end, the court ruled that He Wenwei's debts had nothing to do with me. The creditors glared at me and said, Don't think you can just get away with this. I'm telling you, this isn't over. I let out a scoff and said, What do you actually want, the money, or to keep this feud going with me? The creditors looked confused, exchanged glances, and replied, Of course we want the money. What good would dragging this out with you do for us? Exactly, I said, glancing around to make sure no one was nearby before continuing. He Wenwei did borrow your money, but it's definitely not with me. I suspect the money is probably with He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying. You know what they say, a father pays his son's debts, so maybe a son's debt should be paid by his parents, right? In less than a week, the court investigation revealed that He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying were fully aware of He Wenwei's loan activities and had even profited significantly from them. All assets under their names were frozen, and creditors evicted them from their home. 12. Penniless and with nowhere to go, He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying showed up at my villa in the pouring rain, begging me to take them in. The scene was almost identical to when I had come to their doorstep with Jingjing seeking help in my past life, but unlike their heartless behavior back then, I welcomed them in with a smile. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying had lost their former arrogance. Speaking with little conviction, Jiang Yueying mumbled, Your father and I have nowhere to go now. You're the only one who can help us. You're so wealthy these days. I cleared my throat, mimicking Jiang Yueying's words from our past life. You mumble when you speak. I wonder how your parents raised you. Oh, I forgot. Your parents died long ago, right? He Zhizhong snapped. After all, I am your elder. We're Jingjing's grandparents. Aren't you afraid of karma for treating us like this? I chuckled. Because Jingjing is a girl, you never treated her as your real granddaughter, always giving her the cold shoulder. Now that you're broke, you suddenly remember her. If you think boys are more useful than girls, why not just go find your precious grandson? He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying were stunned. They never expected I knew about He Wenwei's secret child. Jiang Yueying widened her round eyes, as if something clicked. You knew about Wenwei's love child all along. I nodded and raised my injured finger. Did you really think someone as weak as you could hurt my hand? They were stunned by my words, stammering for ages without managing a complete sentence. I pointed them in a different direction. He Wenwei only gave you part of the money. I'm certain the rest is with his mistress and illegitimate child. You'd have better luck confronting them instead of coming after me. 13. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying left again in the pouring rain. My private investigator trailed them and reported they went straight to Li Jinyu's rented apartment that night. The living room light stayed on all night. They were probably scheming until morning. I wasn't worried about their plotting. What concerned me was if they did nothing at all, without action, I'd have nothing to grasp onto. Only if they made a move would I get my chance for revenge. I waited patiently for a week. Finally, I received a summons from the police. When I arrived at the police station, I found Li Jinyu, He Zhizhong, and Jiang Yueying all there. The child who called him dad at the funeral was also present, still wearing a mourning band on his arm, the moment I showed up. Jiang Yueying burst into tears and wailed, "Officers, you must deliver justice for us. This woman killed my son wanted a divorce, and she deliberately caused a car crash to murder him." I pretended not to understand, and the officer frowned as he explained to me, "He Wenwei's parents filed a report claiming you're responsible for his death because you knew about his affair. How do you explain this?" Ignoring the police, I turned to Li Jinyu with a shocked expression and asked, "Jinyu, what are you doing here?" Jiang Yueying, holding the little boy's hand, cut in, "Stop pretending, you knew all along that Jinyu and Wenwei were together and had a child." Li Jinyu sobbed in response, "Shiyu, I never meant to hurt you. Wenwei and I had no other choice. We're truly in love. Even if you hate me, you shouldn't resort to murder. If you must kill someone, kill me instead. This is all my fault. What a beautiful love story this is. I treated you like my closest sister. Even while I was pregnant with Jingjing, I helped you at every turn after your unexpected pregnancy, but you not only stabbed me in the back, you even tried to take my daughter's life. The price of your love is far too high." 14. I let out a sigh and nodded slowly after a long pause. That's right, I knew about the relationship between Wenwei and Jinyu. Seeing my nod, Zhizhong and Yueying pointed at me and exclaimed, "See, officer, she admitted it, arrest her right now." I lifted my head calmly and said, "Mom, Dad, when you mentioned at the crematorium that Wenwei's death was staged, I became suspicious, combined with Jinyu bringing a child who called him daddy right in front of me. I looked into who Wenwei was having an affair with, but I kept quiet because I wanted Jingjing to remember her father as perfect. More than that, while I understood why Wenwei chose to fake his death, I can't comprehend how a staged death turned into a real one." Zhizhong and Yueying's faces changed instantly as they vehemently denied it. "I didn't say anything. My son didn't fake his death. You're the one who caused the car accident and killed him. A life for a life. You owe us our son back." I wouldn't have come unless I had everything prepared. I know He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying went to Li Jinyu and the others to avoid repaying their debts and protect He Wenwei's loan. They'll definitely try to eliminate me so that all my assets would go to Jingjing. But Jingjing is only 5 years old now, so custody would remain solely with He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying. They could have Jingjing die suddenly in a couple of years and donate her heart to Li Jinyu and He Wenwei's child. That way, they'd get both the money and a healthy child, but I won't let any of this happen. I had my lawyer present surveillance footage from the crematorium showing He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying causing a scene, along with high-definition video captured by a good Samaritan that exposed He Wenwei's faked death. Then I produced the chat logs between He Wenwei and Li Jinyu discussing the staged death. Li Jinyu trembled all over. "How did you get this?" "Of course I got it. We're living in the digital age, everything leaves a trace online. I simply hired a hacker to sync his data while He Wenwei was asleep." 15. The police verified the authenticity of the evidence and grew suspicious of Li Jinyu, He Zhizhong, and Jiang Yueying's statements. Ignoring them, the officer turned to me and asked, "What did you mean earlier about a faked death turning into a real one?" I calmly laid out my theory. "Officer, here's what I think happened. They convinced He Wenwei to fake his death to avoid debt, but they worried the ruse would be too easy to uncover, so they staged a minor accident to look like a major crash, ensuring his immediate death. Then, my in-laws deliberately caused a scene at the crematorium and injured my hand. That way, when fingerprint matching is done in court, they can't prove the print isn't mine, making the so-called IOU effectively uncollectible. I'm certain that if you check the bank transactions under Li Jinyu's and my in-laws' names right now, you'll find suspicious sums of money that shouldn't be there." The three of them turned pale at my words. Although the car accident story I told was fabricated, the bank transaction records were undeniably real. Li Jinyu stammered for a while before finally explaining, "We did intend to fake a death to make you repay the debts, but we would never harm Wenwei. The only possibility is that you, knowing Wenwei planned to fake his death, turned the charade into reality." The lawyer interjected at just the right moment. "That's not correct. If Ms. Yang had known about this in advance, she could have simply filed for divorce. Mr. He and Ms. Yang signed a prenuptial agreement. All assets clearly belong to her. A divorce would have cost her nothing, she had no motive to commit murder. The police officer nodded in agreement. Exactly, if Ms. Young wanted to kill someone, wouldn't that be overkill? It's just an affair, hardly worth resorting to murder, right? No one knows I've been reborn, and no one knows about my deep-seated hatred for He Wenwei. Anyone would agree that divorce is a far more reasonable solution than murder. 16. He Zhizhong, Jiang Yueying, and Li Jinyu were also stunned. They couldn't come up with any argument to refute me. After a long pause, Li Jinyu finally spoke up. But if we were the ones who killed Wenwei, why would we report it to the police? That would be like shooting ourselves in the foot, wouldn't it? I shook my head. That's your clever move. You must have caught wind of my investigation into He Wenwei's case, so you decided to strike first by filing a false police report to muddy the waters. Fortune favors the bold. If I could trace He Wenwei's money to you, so can his creditors. You're trying to pin this murder on me while I'm in the dark, all to get your hands on my assets. I didn't finish my sentence, but everyone grasped what I was implying, so, acting as He Wenwei's widow, I immediately called the police and demanded a thorough investigation into his true cause of death. The three of them quickly went from being the accusers to becoming suspects. The three individuals were quickly interrogated separately. I was also investigated as a suspect, but my record is completely clean. My daily routine consists of going to and from work. And aside from sleeping and spending time with Jingjing, I'm working around the clock. I can say with absolute certainty that I had no knowledge of He Wenwei's affair. The so-called evidence, such as the payments to the private investigator, were all made after He Wenwei's death, which aligns perfectly with my account. As a result, I was quickly cleared of all charges. Li Jinyu's testimony was consistent and airtight, with no inconsistencies. She admitted to planning a fake death with He Wenwei but denied any involvement in his actual death. He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying kept changing their statements, which wasn't particularly helpful for the investigation. The investigation hit a dead end, with even the police suspecting that He Wenwei's minor accident had simply escalated due to his own carelessness. 17. However, the police soon uncovered another critical detail at the hospital. Li Jinyu's son had congenital heart disease and might not survive another year without a heart transplant. And then they found my daughter's medical examination report and heart compatibility report at Li Jinyu's house, so it's confirmed that the heart donor is none other than Mai and He Wenwei's daughter, Jingjing. Suddenly, everything made sense. From the police's perspective, as Jingjing's father, He Wenwei would never have agreed to sacrifice her life to save Li Jinyu's child. That's why, even though the test results were from last year, no action had been taken. But Li Jinyu was different. She was willing to do anything for her own son, and she was the one who first came up with the idea of faking her death. She was also the prime suspect. Finally, during a thorough investigation, the police found a laptop under Li Jinyu's bed. Everything on it had been wiped clean. But they managed to recover the data after some effort. We finally uncovered Li Jinyu's browser search history. All searches were made before He Wenwei's death, primarily about how to sabotage vehicle fuel tanks and turn minor collisions into major accidents. With irrefutable evidence, Li Jinyu was charged with murder by the prosecutor's office. After extensive investigation and trial, she was convicted of murder without a confession and sentenced to life imprisonment. Li Jinyu refused to accept the verdict, filing multiple appeals while persistently proclaiming her innocence. Those things weren't mine, I swear. I didn't kill Wenwei, I didn't. Yet every appeal ended with the original verdict upheld and her right to sentence reduction revoked. During this drawn-out legal battle, Li Jinyu's son, left with no one to care for him, died alone. It was only then that He Zhizhong and Jiang Yueying discovered their son's death was no accident. It was deliberate murder orchestrated by that woman, Li Jinyu. Realizing they had unwittingly become accomplices, and now stripped of their money, son, and grandson, coupled with my occasional thoughtful phone calls to torment them, the two couldn't withstand the shock. They soon suffered strokes that left them completely paralyzed. As their devoted daughter-in-law, I made sure they were placed in a remote and nightmarish nursing home. It won't be long before they reunite with their son and grandson. 18. A few years have passed, and Jingjing and I are living a wonderfully happy life. She never developed kidney failure like in my previous life, which just proves my suspicions were right all along. It's highly likely that Li Jinyu, He Zhizhong, or Jiang Yueying gave her something that damaged her kidneys, but Jingjing is truly content now. Since I've deliberately avoided bringing him up, She's gradually forgotten all about that deadbeat father of hers, He Wenwei. Out of sheer boredom, I paid a visit to Li Jinyu in prison. In just a few short years, Li Jinyu has aged even more than when I last saw her at the mall in my previous life. She probably can't wrap her head around how everything went so wrong when it was all going so well. When she saw me, her eyes welled up with tears of blood. You must be so pleased with yourself, reducing me to this state. It's just my bad luck, otherwise. I nodded, then shook my head. It's not bad luck, it's just that every move you made was exactly as I anticipated. Li Jinyu finally caught on. It was you, my home computer, your daughter's medical and matching reports, even He Wenwei's car accident. It was all you, wasn't it? I didn't say a word, silently confirming her suspicions, then chuckled softly. Don't get so worked up. You need to stay alive to watch how happy and content my daughter and I will be. Watching Li Jinyu cough up blood and rage. How could you do this? You killed my beloved, my son. How utterly ridiculous. You think you can steal my daughter's heart and expect me not to fight back. But seeing her like this, I finally feel the vengeance from my past life has been served. Li Jinyu was right. That night of my rebirth, I wasn't handling documents at all. I was tampering with He Wenwei's fuel tank. If He Wenwei hadn't staged that minor accident to fake his death, the car wouldn't have exploded or had any issues, but the moment it collided, that fuel tank was guaranteed to blow. I saw no need to tell Li Jinyu any of this. Letting her live out her days in anguish and confusion suited me just fine, but Li Jinyu still refused to follow the path I'd set for her. 6 months later, I heard she'd killed herself in prison, gnawed through her own wrists with her teeth and bled out. The end. Story 2. My sister and I saved the richest man. He gave us 2 choices, either take 10 million, or marry his son. I'd heard the richest man's only son was ugly, so my sister begged me to marry him instead, but to my surprise, the richest man's son turned out to be Qin Huai, the campus heartthrob, and he's been incredibly doting since we got married. My sister, however, took the money and became addicted to gambling, eventually being swindled out of her money and dignity, out of jealousy. She pushed me off a tall building, but accidentally fell herself. When we opened our eyes again, we had both been reborn to the day of our choice. She was quick to choose the engagement, but I just smiled. 10 million yuan was a much better deal than marrying a pervert. Uncle, I choose to marry your son, my sister blurted it out, her body still trembling slightly from overwhelming excitement, her eyes filled with greed and desire. I curved my lips into a smile. What a coincidence. My sister was reborn with me too. I was just wondering how to get her to choose to marry him. Talk about perfect timing. Just when I needed it most, the billionaire didn't give a direct answer, but gave me a kind smile instead. You're the elder sister, you choose first. My sister and I have completely different temperaments. She's lively, impulsive and straightforward, not the best match for his son, and I, quiet, well-behaved, and docile, am the easiest to control. My sister quickly tugged at my hand, her eyes flashing with a hint of threat. Sister, I heard uncle's son is ugly and has a bad temper. You couldn't handle that kind of hardship, so I'll marry him instead. I smiled faintly. Are you sure? You won't regret it later. My sister shook her head frantically. Absolutely not. When I get home, I'll even put in a good word for you with Mom and Dad. I'll never snatch your things again. I smirked, a meaningful smile playing on my lips. All right, little sister, just remember what you said today. Then I turned to the richest man and said, Uncle, I choose 10 million. The richest man replied with a hint of regret. All right then. My sister's eyes crinkled with joy, seemingly lost in dreams of a blissful life after marrying into the wealthy Qin family. Not only do I have an incredibly handsome and loving husband, but I also get to enjoy endless wealth and luxury. Dad, please don't worry. My husband and I will definitely take good care of you from now on. The doctor said I'm perfectly healthy, and I can give you 2 grandchildren in 3 years. If there's anything I do wrong in the future, just tell me, and I promise I'll change. Before he even stepped through the door, the dad started calling out, each word sweeter than the last. A smile finally graced the richest man's face. Quite intriguing. All right. Your words put my mind at ease. We don't have many rules in this family, but the one and only rule is, only widowhood, no divorce. The sister's smile instantly brightened. To her, this was a stroke of pure luck. I nodded eagerly. Don't worry, Dad. No matter what happens, I'll never divorce my husband. With downcast eyes, I watched the newly sprouted leaves on the lawn, a mocking smile curling at the corners of my lips. In my past life, the tycoon never said this, They knew I valued loyalty. So they used my parents' lives to suppress me, preventing any resistance. As for my sister, it was even simpler. Just throw enough money at her, the greedy, selfish younger sister and the twisted, devilish young master. What a perfect match, a top-tier pairing, a match made in heaven, too. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, the younger sister excitedly announced the monumental news, "Mom and Dad, I'm going to marry Qin Huai, the richest man's son. From now on, I'll be Mrs. Qin." Dad shot up from the couch, stunned. "Sure Qing, are you serious? You're not kidding, are you?" Mom, her finger trembling slightly, pointed at the news report about the richest man donating $1.3 billion to his alma mater. "The richest man you're talking about, is it him?" My sister lifted her chin, as proud as a peacock. "Who else could it be? His son, Qin Huai, is the campus heartthrob at our university. Didn't you see him when you helped me sign up? He's super handsome and gentle. The richest man in the country." My dad said that in half a month, it'll be an auspicious day, and we'll have a grand wedding then. "Mom and Dad, from now on, you'll be in-laws with the richest man in the country. Aren't you happy?" How could they not be happy? Mom's eyes were red with excitement, and Dad quickly went to wash fruit and pour drinks for my sister. Mom swallowed hard and said, "The richest man just donated $1.3 billion to his alma mater. How rich must he be?" My sister was the center of attention, and you could tell she was absolutely thrilled. She even shot me a mocking glance out of the corner of her eye. "Oh, absolutely. Their family's empire primarily spans real estate and luxury goods. They have more money than they could ever spend in several lifetimes. You know those high-end office buildings in the city center with the most exorbitant rents? They own all of them. They're not collecting rent, they're collecting ground rent." The richest man said their family has only one rule: divorce is not an option. Seriously, who would even want a divorce once they're married into that family? You'd be laughing in your sleep every night. I smiled, enjoying my sister's animated chatter, feeling her joy in that moment. The richest man's family is indeed swimming in money, and they can spend it however they please, no questions asked. But everything comes at a price, especially for such a shrewd businessman. The reason the richest man donated $1.3 billion to his alma mater was because Qin Huai was responsible for the death of a female student at the school. To keep the incident under wraps, he spent a fortune, ensuring everyone with knowledge got a piece of the pie. There's a reason my sister is marrying Qin Huai in half a month. A grand wedding can conceal many sins. My mom, quick-witted as ever, immediately reacted. The richest man is so generous, letting Shurqing marry his son. So what did you get? My sister casually replied, "Just 10 million. Her nonchalant remark, however, made Mom and Dad's eyes light up, and they excitedly rubbed their hands together. "Sure you, there's no need for a girl like you to carry so much cash. Mom will keep it safe for you, and you can have it back whenever you need it." I scoffed. Different from my past life, yet exactly the same. In my previous life, my sister got 10 million, and my parents told her to spend it on herself, to doll herself up. Then they'd turn to me, demanding I give her money too, saying that since I married well, it was only right for me to support the family, because she was younger and had a sweet tongue. My sister was exceptionally doted on, so she gets twice as much allowance as I do every month, and I still have to buy her snacks. No matter how well I do on my exams, they only ever go to my sister's parent-teacher conferences. Whenever my sister and I have any kind of argument, it's always my fault, because I'm the older sister, but I'm only 1 minute older than her. 3. Mom, Dad, it's not that I don't want to give it to you, but this money was given to me by the richest man, and you just took it. What will they think? They'll assume our family sold me off for status, and my sister will be looked down upon once she marries into that family. I was just making things up, but Mom, Dad, and my sister clearly bought it. My sister waved her hand dismissively. "Forget it. It's just 10 million, right? Mom and Dad, don't ask my sister for it anymore. Once I successfully marry Qin Huai, we'll have all the money we could ever want. But, big sister, you have to promise me this: you can never appear in front of Qin Huai again, and you're not allowed to live at home anymore." Is she afraid something might happen between Qin Huai and me? I curved my lips into a smile. This is exactly what I wanted. Why didn't I realize my sister was so adorable before? Now everything my sister says and does is music to my ears. Alright, I'll go pack my bags now. I won't come back until you notify me. From now on, I wish you and your brother-in-law a harmonious marriage and many children soon. My sister was pleased with my tact, nodding and saying, "You're so well behaved now, sis. If you keep being this obedient, I might even reward you with a little something when I'm in a good mood." I smiled even brighter than her, packed everything in 10 minutes, and left the house in a hurry with my suitcase. Everything went so smoothly. Once I was in the taxi, I finally couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. With my insanely jealous sister gone, my twisted, demonic husband out of the picture, and my greedy, biased parents finally out of my hair, the sky has turned bluer and the wind feels so much more romantic. 10 million yuan can really go a long way, like buying a fully furnished studio apartment downtown, ready to move in, with security guards patrolling right outside. Then, I'd start my own venture, which is really just playing the stock market. In my past life, I was quite interested in stocks, though I only dabbled with pocket money. I lost a fair bit, but at least I remembered some surefire winning stocks. Those overnight millionaire stocks are all insider manipulated, though I've noted a few. I wasn't bold enough to go all in. Diversified my investments instead. Playing it safe never hurts. As for traditional businesses like restaurants, apparel, or beauty services, not really my cup of tea, but e-commerce, that's where the future lies. They'll eventually swallow up 70% of brick-and-mortar stores. Just as I finalized the company registration and secured our office space, my sister's wedding invitation arrived exquisitely crafted with golden wheat ears embroidered along the edges. My sister video called me from the Qin family mansion's garden. 2 attendants standing by in the background, living the high life. "I see, sis. Did you get the invitation?" I smiled, holding up the invitation and giving it a little shake. "I did. It's absolutely stunning." My sister's eyes sparkled with pride. "Of course it is. I had it custom made. The wheat ears are crafted from pure gold, and those sparkling gems are real jade. Just one invitation cost over 8,000 yuan. I feigned an envious look. "Wow, that must have cost a fortune." She chuckled, even more smugly. "Not really, just a few million. That's pocket change for our Qin family." "Did you see the calligraphy on the wedding invitation? Isn't the name beautifully written?" My husband, Qin Huai, wrote it all himself. His handwriting is just like him. Not only is he handsome, but he writes beautifully too, don't you think, sister? Do you regret not listening to me back then and not choosing Qin Huai? I traced the words on the invitation, smiling meaningfully. "Why would I? Seeing my sister so happy makes me happy too," she scoffed. "Sister, you really are pathetic. You were bullied by me before, and you're still bullied by me now. You deserve to be trampled underfoot for 2 lifetimes." I pretended not to understand. After she bragged a few more times, she finally hung up, satisfied. I, too, stared at the calligraphy of my name. This handwriting was all too familiar to me. Qin Huai was blessed with good looks, always smiling, seemingly harmless. His hands, in particular, were incredibly beautiful, long and well-defined, perfect for playing the piano at a grade 10 level and writing calligraphy with a flourish. Even when those beautiful hands committed evil, they remained beautiful. He loved writing calligraphy. He'd make me kneel and grind the ink for him, then have me, completely naked, become the canvas for his brush. Just recalling a few brief moments left me drenched in a cold sweat. Qin Huai is my unresolved issue. If I can't deal with him, he'll haunt me for the rest of my life. Looking at the stock market, all red and glowing on the screen, my initial 3 million from playing the market has now grown to over 30 million. This would have been unimaginable before. So why can't I be bolder, admire the richest, become the richest, surpass the richest? It was dubbed the wedding of the century, rumored to have cost 300 million yuan. The tiara alone, worn by the bride, was said to have once belonged to a princess from a certain country, and with 3 bodyguards flanking her, its immense value was undeniable. Her wedding gown was haute couture, and the smile on her face outshone even the brightest midday sun. Dressed in a sharp black suit, Qin Huai's dashing looks easily rivaled those of any idol in the entertainment industry. It was truly a picture-perfect moment of a beautiful couple, especially when he got down on one knee to propose. "Sure, Qing, I'll cherish you for the rest of my life. You'll never regret being with me." My sister was so touched that tears welled up in her eyes, and she nodded vigorously. "Yes, I believe you." The audience erupted in thunderous applause, many shedding tears of emotion. Only the groomsmen, a group of rich second-generation heirs, had looks of playful mockery in their eyes. They weren't good guys either. They usually hung out together and got into trouble. As long as they steer clear of the family business and don't try to start their own, their parents consider any amount of money they spend as mere pocket change. 5. During the toasts, as the bride's sister, I couldn't just leave, even if I wanted to, so, in this life, for my first encounter with Qin Huai, I tried my best to keep my head down and remain inconspicuous, but I still caught Qin Huai's attention. He said with a half-smile, "Even though you're my wife's older sister, it seems this is our first time meeting, isn't it? I heard you're very busy. What keeps you so occupied that you don't even attend family dinners?" With no other choice, I raised my head to meet his gaze, those smiling yet sinister eyes, his slightly arched eyebrows betraying keen interest in me. My hands clenched into tight fists at my sides, nails digging into my palms, the sharp pain barely keeping my fear at bay. I forced a strained smile. "Yeah, just busy with work." Qin Huai licked his teeth with playful amusement. "Oh, what keeps my dear sister so occupied? Maybe I could lend a hand. Any other woman would be over the moon with the crown prince's public display of affection, but it sent shivers down my spine." My sister stepped forward, placing herself between him and me. "Honey, there are still so many people waiting for me to toast." Only then did Qin Huai let me go. After my sister finished her toasts, they moved to the next table. I didn't dare to linger, so I grabbed my bag and left. The very next day was the Huimen, return to parents' home, and I honestly didn't think my sister would ask me back, just to avoid Qin Huai, but then Mom called, insisting I come, and her tone was quite urgent. In that case, Qin Huai definitely hadn't come back with her. So I didn't make any excuses. The moment I slipped on my slippers, I looked up and saw my sister's utterly exhausted face, her bright eyes already bloodshot. It clicked for me then. So, Qin Huai had already laid hands on her last night. In my previous life, at least he waited a month before he did that to me. But then I saw the crocodile skin bag on her arm, worth over 700,000 yuan. And it all made sense. Qin Huai is a very generous man, spending money on women like water. But only if he's willing to, not if the woman actively seeks it. So, in his eyes, a money-grubbing sister was just a toy he bought, and since it's a toy, he can play with it whenever he wants, right? Why bother picking a time? So what if it's their wedding night? I deliberately feigned surprise. "Sis, how did you change so much in just one night?" Then it hit me, and I chuckled, teasing, "Oh, right. Last night was your wedding night with your husband. It's only natural you'd be a bit tired." My sister didn't say a word, but stared intently at my face, trying to figure out if I was faking it. I blinked. "Sis, why are you looking at me like that?" Her voice was incredibly hoarse. She must have been crying and begging all night, but Qin Huai is a pervert. The more you cry, the more excited he gets. After a long hesitation, she still chose to give up. "Sister, never mind." 6. Mom cooked a whole table of dishes. All her younger sister's favorites: spicy crab, mao shuawang, spicy blood curd, stir-fried beef. She only managed a couple sips of fish soup and a few bites of tofu, finding it hard to swallow. Her dad asked with concern, "Shirqing, are you feeling unwell?" She forced a smile and replied, "I drank too much last night, my throat's a bit sore." So her mom quickly went to make some seafood congee, and her dad washed some cherries for her. She reluctantly ate a few more bites. I ate with my head down, but couldn't help the smile playing on my lips. Last night, Qin Huai was testing her obedience, probably making her eat all sorts of bizarre things, like live octopus and such. This is just the first step. Gradually, things will get wilder, tying her up and having her join in with his shady friends. But that's not even the worst part. The arm-thick moon eels are truly the most disgusting and terrifying. That thing was much bigger than a regular eel, all slimy and poisonous, just disgusting and twisted. By the way, Shirqing, is your husband very busy? How come he didn't come back with you? My sister's hand, holding the spoon, trembled involuntarily. "Yes, he's very busy," Dad said, a bit displeased. "Even if he's busy, he should still come for dinner when you visit your parents." How much time could it possibly take? Mom shot Dad a glare. "My son-in-law is a busy man, running a big business. What, did you think he'd be as useless as you?" Then, trying to appease her, she served my sister some food. "Don't listen to your dad. All that matters is that you and your husband live a good life together." My sister mumbled a perfunctory reply, clearly not wanting to discuss Qin Huai, and quickly changed the subject to me. "Sis, what have you been up to these past few days?" After finishing my chicken soup, I slowly replied, "Oh, nothing much, just some shopping and a bit of travel." My sister scoffed, showing off the crocodile bag in her hand. "I love shopping too, but my shopping sprees are a bit different from my sister's. We always get the whole store to ourselves, and I can get as many limited editions as I want, even the ones people would pay extra for but still can't get their hands on. Just the day before yesterday, I spent over $6 million in 2 hours. Mom's eyes widened. Goodness, won't your husband get mad spending so much money? My sister scoffed. He wouldn't even blink at such petty cash. He gave me an unlimited supplementary card. Spend away. I listened to her bragging with a practiced smile, flashing just the right amount of envy. With our parents' endless praise, she seemed to rediscover her motivation for staying with Qinhuai, even if mistreated. The lavish lifestyle and everyone's admiration made it worthwhile. My sister declared grandly, Mom, Dad, I'm taking you shopping this afternoon. Anything you fancy is on me. Mom beamed. That's my precious Shirqing. All those years raising you weren't wasted. You actually remember to buy gifts for your parents when you're rich. They're subtly hinting that I haven't bought them anything. I smiled faintly. My sister and I are different. She has enough wealth to last several lifetimes. After buying my house, I don't have much money left. So I have to be frugal with my spending. My sister, flattered by my words, beamed and said, That's true. My sister will have to make do with this much money for the rest of her life. Mom and Dad, tell me what you want, and I'll buy it for you. Didn't Dad say he wanted a sports car earlier? And let's get a jade bracelet too. Mom and Dad instantly lit up, excitedly discussing what they wanted to buy, specifically picking out the most expensive items. My little sister lifted her chin with peacock-like pride, eyeing me triumphantly. Sis, you must be so jealous of me right now, aren't you? I smiled meaningfully. What woman out there wouldn't envy you? They're all dying to take your place as Mrs. Qin, my sister declared fiercely. Let me see which hussy dares to seduce my husband. I'll end them. The only way anyone takes my place is over my dead body. I smirked and wished her good luck. 7. My social media feed showed my sister's shopping spree with our parents' sports cars, watches, jade bracelets, and designer bags that must have cost at least $10 million. She's in for a rough night. After enjoying the drama, I focused on company matters, hiring streamers, optimizing workflows. Once operations stabilized, I enrolled in management training to transition from rookie to executive. During this period, I networked with several business owners, often joining them for tea and shop talk during downtime. Running a business is tougher than it looks. I lost over $3 million in the first month, but thankfully turned a profit the next month, though modest. At least the company's back on track now. The stock market's been sluggish lately, though I've managed to make some small gains here and there. While playing golf, I happened to see Qinhuai entering the private course with his sister and his usual crowd of dubious friends. A few men nearby erupted in lewd laughter. Young Master Qin is back with his little trophy wife for their amusement again. Last time, oh man, that scene was really something else. Yeah, seriously, a man's own lawfully wedded wife, letting his buddies have a go. That's worse than any streetwalker. Ha ha ha, who knows? Rich people just have their own twisted ways of having fun. I watched them disappear into the woods, a complex expression on my face. In my past life, Qinhuai subjected me to all sorts of abuse and bullying, but at least he didn't let his brothers have their way with me. This is treating his sister as completely subhuman. Well, it makes sense. His sister cost him so much money, he's bound to retaliate, and after being abused, she just wants to use money to mend her physical and emotional wounds, leading them into a vicious cycle. It's only a matter of time before he destroys her, but she's just his sister, and even under these circumstances, she still managed to get pregnant. The Qin family places great importance on heirs, especially since they only have Qinhuai as their sole descendant. My sister's complexion gradually improved, and her social media remained filled with boastful posts, though now Qinhuai occasionally appeared in them, his gaze tender and doting. The comments section was always flooded with envy, saying she must have saved the galaxy in her past life to deserve marrying Qinhuai. My sister called to gloat, Sis, the doctor confirmed it's a boy. He'll be the young heir to the Qin family fortune the moment he's born. Let's see who dares challenge my position now. I smiled and said, Congratulations. Is the baby healthy? My sister replied proudly, Perfectly healthy. The doctor mentioned something about supermale syndrome. I didn't catch it clearly, but it basically means he'll be extra strong. 8. I nearly burst out laughing. The dangers of ignorance are truly frightening, I gently warned. I've heard of XYY syndrome before, it's associated with aggressive tendencies. The younger sister snapped furiously. Stop cursing my son, you're just jealous because you couldn't bear a son while I could. Don't think I don't see through you. You keep claiming you're not interested in Qinhuai, but secretly you're still hung up on him, envying my happy life now. Listen well, sister, I warn you, if I could kill you once, I can damn well do it again. I opened my mouth and said, sis. What strange things are you saying? I don't understand a word, my sister sneered. It doesn't matter if you don't understand anything else, but if you dare to steal Qinhuai from me, I'll kill you, understand? I said meaningfully. Don't worry, that's absolutely impossible. I'd rather die than fight you for your brother-in-law. He's always yours. In my previous life, I was actually pregnant, twice in fact, but both times the babies had XYY syndrome. The doctor said it might be hereditary. I used to suspect Qinhuai had XYY syndrome, but judging by his appearance, he doesn't seem to. However, looking at my father-in-law's looks and behavior, it's likely a generational inheritance from him. That would explain why my father-in-law had so many women but only one child, Qinhuai. As it's very difficult for men with XYY syndrome to have offspring, children with XYY syndrome are terrifying. They inherently carry violent genes and are very impulsive. 9 times out of 10, they don't turn out to be good people, but with proper guidance, there's still a chance. In my past life, though, I wasn't willing to take that gamble because I felt Qinhuai would eventually kill me. What kind of decent person could come from a family of perverts like theirs? Just as my live streaming company secured $1 billion investment, ready to expand and aim for an IPO within 3 years, my sister gave birth. This big baby boy, weighing in at 3 caddies, is quite a sight. While babies aren't always lookers, this one is exceptionally unique. But then again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and they all think he's adorable. My sister made a grand announcement on social media. The order placed 10 months ago finally arrived today. Huge thanks to my in-laws for this amazing mansion. It's the first time I've ever received such a massive gift. 100 million. Out of the 9 photos, only one was of the baby. The rest were all pictures of the rewards her in-laws gave her. The comments section was flooded with envy, so I gave it a like too. Now that the baby's born, Qinhuai finally let loose again. This time was even worse, with the child already here. All bets were off. He never used to hit her face before. But now he doesn't hold back at all. My younger sister went home crying to our parents and called me back too. Dad fumed. This is absolutely outrageous. You just gave birth to their grandson, and he dares lay a hand on you. No way. I'm going over there to demand an explanation and make Qinhuai apologize to you. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. It's pointless. They won't even see you. Dad slammed the table. If they refuse, I'll sue them. I refuse to believe there's no justice in this world. I chimed in. I'm with you, Dad. Worst case, sis can just divorce him. Before I could finish, my sister cut me off. No, I can't divorce him. I've worked too hard to get where I am. If I divorce him, I'll lose everything. I'm baby's mother, Mrs. Qin. The Qin group will belong to my son in the future, and I will never let go of it. Then she glared at me fiercely. Sister, you're just jealous of me, aren't you? You want to take my place, don't you? I won't let you have your way. I threw my hands up. Fine then, pretend I never said anything. I wish you both a long and happy marriage. If only she had listened, she might have saved her life, but blinded by wealth, she had already descended into madness. 9. At first, I'd still see my sister showing off baby photos and videos on her social media, but then she stopped appearing in them herself. Her facial injuries just never healed. She used to be able to spend lavishly, but after having the baby, she was confined to the house, a full-time mom with no money of her own to spend. That 100 million was supposedly a reward for her, but it was just a formality. In their eyes, she had already given birth and couldn't escape, so there was no need to invest anything more in her. Half a year later, the baby had grown a bit. She couldn't say mommy or daddy, but she'd pull her sister's hair and deliberately bite her while nursing, making her roll around in pain. My mom would call me from time to time to tell me all this, cursing Qinhuai as an animal and the baby as a little beast, but she never once suggested supporting her or telling her to get a divorce, because they were afraid Qinhuai would demand they return all the money my sister had spent on them over the years. There's some paternal and maternal love, but not much. But my sister brought all of this upon herself. The live streaming market is booming right now. In just 1 month, Sales exceeded 30 million, supporting over 100 factories. Many investors see the potential and are actively approaching us for partnerships and funding. We originally planned to go public in 3 years, but now we've done it in a year and a half. I went all in, signing up lesser-known artists for live stream sales, and occasionally bringing in a top-tier celebrity to boost hype. It cost a lot, but the results were phenomenal. My company quickly became the hottest in the live streaming industry, with 3 months of profit matching a public company's annual total. Many companies also set their sights on this lucrative market and jumped into live stream sales, but it was too late. The status of the 3 top-tier streamers I had cultivated was already unshakable. Even Qin Huai noticed the live streaming market and proactively asked me out to dinner, since I had always set up this company under my best friend's name. He didn't know it was me, but that didn't stop me from turning him down 3 times in a row. This was the first time Qin Huai had ever felt so utterly humiliated in her life, and all that rage was immediately unleashed on her sister. But that wasn't the final straw for her sister. It was when her nephew, late at night, tried to stab her in the eye with a fork that she finally had her terrifying epiphany. She fled the hospital, screaming hysterically, "He's a demon, he wasn't trying to blind me. He was trying to kill me. I just happened to wake up and dodge it." Divorce. I want a divorce from Qin Huai. I'm never going back. They'll kill me. They really will. That whole family, every single one of them, they're all devils. Mom, Dad, please save me. I don't want to die. But Qin Huai himself led people to drag her back, smiling chillingly as he said, "Mom and Dad, don't listen to my wife's nonsense. She's just been exhausted taking care of the baby these past few days. A good night's sleep back home is all she needs." 10. Her parents' lips trembled, wanting to speak up for her, but seeing the menacing bodyguards behind him, their outstretched hands slowly retreated. Faced with overwhelming power, they chose self-preservation. My sister knelt before me, clutching my leg and sobbing hysterically, "Sister, let's switch places. You go to the Qin family, okay? The richest man originally wanted you anyway. I won't fight you for anything anymore. All of this is yours." "I don't want anything. I just want to live. Please, big sister, please, I'll kowtow to you." With that, she started frantically kowtowing to me, her forehead instantly stained red with blood. Qin Huai narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing me. "Oh, so it was supposed to be your sister marrying me." Now that I had the power to stand up to him, I naturally didn't shy away from his gaze. I simply smiled faintly and said, "My uncle did indeed have that idea at the time." He licked his lips. "Actually, what your sister just said isn't entirely unreasonable. If you're willing to come home with me and be my wife, I'll let your sister go home." A spark instantly ignited in my sister's eyes. "Sister," I scoffed. "Sister, you're dreaming. You said you'd never regret it. And now it's too late to change your mind. You're always such a coward. The person who bullies you is right there, yet all you do is beg on your knees for your life. You're like a dog, wagging its tail and begging for scraps. Even a dog, when pushed too far, knows to bark and bite. But you don't dare to do anything. What a pathetic waste." My sister's eyes were filled with ferocity as she suddenly sprang to her feet, pulled a dagger from her pocket, and lunged at me. I was prepared, grabbing Qin Huai beside me as a shield. I watched her dagger plunge deep into his abdomen. It all happened in a flash. The bodyguards finally sprang into action, restraining my sister while rushing Qin Huai to the hospital. The living room was suddenly empty except for my parents, me, and the pool of blood staining the floor. As they dragged my sister away, her eyes brimmed with utter despair. My parents, completely lost and trembling, asked me, "What about Shiyu? Qin Huai won't retaliate against us, will he?" I pulled out my phone and sneered, "Of course he will. What do you expect?" They collapsed onto the floor in shock, while I called my secretary. "All right, you can go ahead, hand over all that evidence directly to the tax bureau, take the victims to the police station to file their reports, and make sure the news media follows up. Their stock will plummet starting tomorrow. Tell the shareholders not to touch Qin's stock, no matter how low it drops. We want to buy it for even less after they declare bankruptcy." After I hung up, my parents looked at me, utterly bewildered, and asked, "Shiyu, what on earth were you just talking about?" We didn't understand a word. I just smiled and pointed at the TV. "You'll understand in a bit." 11. Breaking news. Mr. Qin Huai, son of the city's wealthiest man, has been reported for alleged rape of a minor and murder. He has been taken into police custody for investigation. Just in, Mr. Qin Jianhua, the city's richest man, has been formally accused of tax evasion, illegal smuggling, and violent assault spanning many years. He is currently under police investigation. The Chin group was exposed for forced demolitions, with demolition crews consisting entirely of gang members who repeatedly assaulted villagers. The footage has now gone viral. This series of scandals has thrust the Chin group into the eye of the storm, with both managing directors arrested. Panic instantly spread through the organization. Every streamer at our company has been discussing this nonstop for days, turning public opinion into the final nail in their coffin. With our added pressure, Chin stock prices have been plummeting uncontrollably. No one could have imagined the city's reigning king would plummet from the heights to the gutters overnight. My sister and nephew were sent back, while the rest of the Chin family had already fled with their valuables. That household was rotten to the core. It was my first time seeing my nephew, towering over other children his age, his face expressionless but eyes brimming with ferocity. One look was all it took to know my sister's life was ruined. Chin Hui was sentenced to 16 years, and his father received a life sentence. He'll never see the light of day again. Chin's group declared bankruptcy, and I acquired it for a ridiculously low price. The view from the 36th floor is truly magnificent. Looking down at the people below, who seem smaller than ants, when I work late into the night, I can see the bright moon, but by the time the sun rises in the morning, it's already shrouded in clouds. No wonder so many people are desperate to climb to the top. The view truly is more beautiful up here. Just as I became the city's first female billionaire, I received a letter from Chin Hui written from prison. Shiyu, I've been reborn too. No wonder my heart raced when I first saw you at the wedding. You were always my true prey. What a pity I only regained my memories now. Had it been sooner, things would have been far more interesting. Honestly, you're much more delightful than your sister, and far better suited to be my pet. A mere 16 years, with good behavior. I'll be out soon. Aren't you looking forward to our reunion? Do visit when you can. Unless you'd prefer I remind you how persuasive I can be, I scoffed, tossing it into the trash without a second thought, then dialed my secretary. I forgot to tell you something earlier. Find a few people to take good care of Chin Hui and his son in prison. Make their lives a living hell. Understood, Mr. Zhou. Scum like them deserve to live a life worse than death. I was planning to deal with them after I finished my current tasks, but they just delivered themselves right to me. My secretary is my confidant, incredibly perceptive. Every 2 weeks, she brings me videos of the father and son. The once arrogant and untouchable richest man and his heir now specialize in kneeling and barking like dogs, all to avoid another beating. Chin Hui contracted a full-blown STD, losing his last shred of worth and plummeting to the lowest rung of existence. 6 months later, he tried to commit suicide with a sharpened toothbrush and was rushed to the hospital. That very night, he showed up in my garden. He bared his yellowed teeth in a chilling, eerie smile. A smile, finally, spread across the billionaire's face, a smile that left one pondering its true meaning. I'll sit. I know you're behind all of this, destroying my company, destroying me, but it doesn't matter. I love you, and I choose to forgive you. I sipped my coffee elegantly. Care to guess why I'm sitting here in the dead of night? Because I've been waiting for you. He froze for just a second before chuckling. You truly are the most entertaining prey I've ever hunted. You always did understand me. He advanced slowly, a gleaming kitchen knife at his waist. When he was just 2 steps away, I snapped my fingers. A pack of black hounds erupted from the shadows, their razor-sharp fangs tearing into him with savage fury. A look of panic flashed across his face, and he shrieked, "Help me!" So even a beast like him cries for help when he's scared. The well-trained hounds won't kill him. They'll just leave him to linger in a living hell. I poured the pre-soaked salt water over him, and he writhed on the ground, screaming in agony. You really think you got lucky enough to just waltz out of here? Truth be told, it's tricky for me to make a move while you're inside. At most, I can make your life miserable, but you know damn well I want you to suffer worse than death. Don't worry, you won't die. At dawn, I'll call the cops. With injuries this severe, they'll have no choice but to ship you off to a sanatorium. Don't say I never cared. I even opened a special sanatorium just for you. Remember what you did to me back then? I'll repay you 100-fold. 12. Everything was going according to my plan. Chin Hui regretted getting out, because he realized prison was paradise. He confessed and apologized to me countless times, and I just sat there, smiling, sipping my tea and reading, his tormented groans serving as a pleasant backdrop. One of them finally died, either the sister or her nephew with super male syndrome. the nephew locked his aunt in the room and set it on fire. Had it not been for a passing neighbor who called the fire department, the sister would have burned alive. That very night, the sister dismembered her nephew and boiled his remains in a large pot. The sister lost her mind and was committed to a psychiatric facility. So my daily dose of entertainment just got a little boost, because even though my sister's lost her mind, she still remembers Qin Huai and constantly schemes to torment him. One time, she even cut a piece of flesh from his thigh, roasted it, and forced it into his mouth. That's just too disgusting. I finally couldn't stomach it anymore. Time for me to focus on my career and let them keep each other company in there. Sitting in a sports car, enjoying the free summer breeze, and basking in the admiring gazes of young men, my life is just beginning. Story 2. After my best friend reincarnated, she stole my system. You only lived better than me because you bound with a system. This time, I'll reclaim everything that belongs to me. I remained silent. Does she even know that I'm bound to a love-struck brain system? The kind where pitying men brings a lifetime of bad luck. One moment ago, I was standing on the awards podium holding Jiang Yu's hand. The enviable CEO's wife in everyone's eyes. Then in a flash of white light, I returned to my college days when every penny had to be stretched thin, but after a dazed moment, I couldn't contain my wild joy. Heavens, I've finally gotten rid of that brain-dead system. No more trailing after men, asking this and that, spending money and effort, being a tear-jerking simp. The timing of my rebirth was quite fortuitous. In just a few minutes, I'll be on my way back to the dormitory when I pick up the system that would change my life. But this time, I decided to take a different path. Just kidding. Being a simp for one lifetime is disgusting enough. Who would want to do it for two? I turned my head, ready to share this good news with my dear best friendly Nua, only to find her staring at me with an unpleasant expression. Her eyes flickered with complex emotions like ecstasy, resentment, and anger. I reached out and touched her head, asking, Nua, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Unexpectedly, she immediately swatted my hand away. The force was so strong that my hand turned red instantly. Nua, Chen Nua seemed to finally react, apologizing to me. Sorry meow meow. I wasn't feeling well just now. I didn't mean to. I expressed concern. Are you okay? Should I accompany you to the infirmary after class? She shook her head, forcing a smile. It's fine, I'll go by myself. Just then, the class bell rang, but I'm not really at ease leaving you like this. Before I could finish speaking, Chen Nua threw out a "see you at the dorm" and dashed off with his backpack. Thinking of Chen Nua's recent behavior, I hesitated but ultimately followed her. For some reason, I always feel her emotions are unstable right now. If I don't follow, I'm afraid something might happen. The hallway was crowded with people who had just finished class. Even though I came out just 1 minute later than Chen Nua, there was still a distance of nearly 7 or 8 meters between us. With so many people in between, I couldn't very well call out to her. I had no choice but to quietly follow her, planning to wait until we reached a more open space to speak. But unexpectedly, Chen Nua wasn't heading toward the infirmary at all. The direction she was walking became increasingly familiar, more and more familiar. So familiar that several times I wanted to call out to her, but couldn't make a sound. I watched her walk to that remote corner and pick up the faintly glowing blue system with a look of relief. I felt like all the blood in my body was rushing backward. At that moment, she happened to turn around and meet my gaze. Both of us froze, too. After a long pause, I asked with a trembling voice, Nua, did you also get reborn? Why are you taking this system? Chen Nua hung her head, flustered as she hid the system behind her back without speaking. I took a few steps forward, wanting to persuade her to put down that system. As long as the system hasn't bound itself to her body, everything can still be salvaged. Nua, quickly throw it away. This is absolutely not a good thing. It will make you lose yourself in front of men and lead you to eternal damnation. Chen Nua suddenly looked up and smiled. Su Miao, you call becoming the lofty president's wife eternal damnation? Doesn't your conscience ache at all? I froze. It's not like that. Didn't I tell you before? After binding with this system, I haven't been happy at all. This kind of life where my heart and eyes only have one man, sacrificing everything for love, is absolutely not what I wanted. But this is what I want, Chen Nua shouted, his expression tinged with madness. Su Miao, just admit it. No matter how much you look down on this system, it's precisely because of this system that you got to know Jiang Yu and lived a privileged life. We used to be so similar in every way, similar grades, similar family backgrounds, similar looks, but because of this system, your life kept getting better. You met someone as impressive as Jianyu and even married him, while I've been stuck in place all this time, never even managing to find a decent man. I couldn't believe it and said hurtfully, Nua, so this is how you've always thought of me." Chen Nua interrupted me. "Enough. Stop pretending to be sisterly affectionate with me here. In our past life, I was clearly the one who saw this system first. You just picked it up before I did. This system should have been mine from the start. You stole my life, and now, I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine." I stared at her blankly. For the first time, I felt that Chen Nua, who grew up with me and attended university together, had become so unfamiliar. I was still trying to explain to her. "This really isn't a good system. After binding, it'll turn you into a love-obsessed airhead who only thinks about men." Chen Nua's tone grew increasingly impatient. "What's wrong with being love-obsessed? As long as I gain love and power, what does it matter if I lose myself?" She mercilessly crushed the glowing orb, binding the system. Then she shoved past me and left. Watching her retreating figure, I was suddenly overwhelmed with sorrow, but this love-obsessed system would cost more than just one's self. 3. After that day, no matter how I explained to Chen Nua or listed the dangers of this love-obsessed system, she turned a deaf ear. Instead, she concluded that I was the stumbling block on her path to success. Not only did she block all my contact methods, but she even contacted the counselor to change dorm rooms. Meanwhile, she began spending her limited living expenses on cosmetics, clothes, and weight loss. Several times, I saw her in the hallway splitting a single instant noodle pack into 2 meals, looking frighteningly thin. At that moment, I knew I was powerless to change anything, because I had experienced all of this in my previous life. The first step of the love-addicted system, rationalizing sacrifices beyond one's capacity. Portraying all this as self-improvement, enhancing one's own capabilities, completely ignoring whether one can bear it, or whether the task subject is even worth it. It's like walking across a vast, flat plain that's riddled with swamps, appearing to lead to heaven, but in reality heading straight for hell. Now all I can hope is that Chen Nua's chosen target is a good person, until the day of the school sports meet. When I saw Chen Nua and Jianyu kissing in public to celebrate his first-place victory, I fell silent. My eyes met Chen Nua's across the crowded space. She gave me a provocative glance, then wrapped her arms around Jianyu's neck, deepening the kiss. The onlookers erupted in loud cheers and teasing. I quietly watched Chen Nua, watched them. Suddenly, everything became clear and I saw through it all. It turns out I was just being sentimental all along, wanted to save Chen Nua. Actually, she was thoroughly enjoying herself. In that case, why should I bother with her anymore? I left the playground. Little did I expect Chen Nua to come looking for me. She crossed her arms, her tone triumphant. The corner of her mouth still bore the lipstick mark Jianyu had smeared. "How about it? Now I'm the female lead with the system. Have you finally come to understand my resentment and anger?" I hung my head, not wanting to engage with her. After all, we were childhood friends. Even if we've gone our separate ways, I wanted to preserve the last shred of dignity between us. But Chen Nua didn't see it that way. She mistook my tolerance for cowardice and silent consent. She blocked my path, chattering incessantly. "Now you understand how great the system is, don't you? Only by possessing the system can you become the protagonist of life, the center of the world, the focus of all attention. Otherwise, you'll end up like me in the past and you now, no matter what you do. You can't change your own fate." I looked up and interrupted her. "Chen Nua, I have no regrets. Compared to being the protagonist, I prefer being myself. At least my fate is in my own hands, not subject to others' manipulation." Chen Nua choked for a moment, then snorted coldly. "It better be so." I watched her quietly without speaking. After a long pause, she frowned again and said, "The gala rehearsal is about to start. Meow meow, be sensible and don't disturb me and Jianyu." In my past life, Jianyu and I met during the gala rehearsal. The boy who was supposed to perform in the stage play with me broke his leg playing basketball, and the substitute couldn't make it either. The teacher was about to cancel the performance and reassign me to another group. Then, Jianyu appeared. He leaned against the wall and casually knocked on the dance studio door. After capturing everyone's attention, he raised an eyebrow and asked, "Teacher, do you think I'm suitable to be the male lead?" At that time, Chen Nua beside me whispered to me, "Meow meow. Don't you think he really resembles the male protagonist from a novel world?" I nodded silently, because the moment Jiang Yu appeared, I heard the voice of the romance brain system. Since the host has delayed in selecting a target to pursue, the system will automatically bind Jiang Yu for you shortly. Binding successful. Please strive to complete tasks and achieve a perfect ending. 4. Hey. Are you even listening to me? Chen Nua's voice snapped me back to reality. I let out a sigh of relief. Thankfully, that was all in a past life. Not receiving my reply for a long time, Chen Nua grew somewhat anxious. Su Miao, what do you mean by this? I responded indifferently. Nothing much. You're free to do as you please, but you can't control me either. Chen Nua's expression changed immediately. In this lifetime, I am Jiang Yu's destined one. You can't win against me. I neither agreed nor disagreed, ready to leave, but after some thought, decided to warn her. Jiang Yu isn't a good person, be careful. Without exaggeration, in my past life, I almost became Jiang Yu's blood bag. Not only provide material value, but also emotional value. Even my own mother isn't this considerate. Chen Nua, however, smiled. She looked me up and down, her words dripping with pride and boastfulness. Su Miao, I thought you really didn't care about Jiang Yu. Turns out it was all an act. I always said you were together with him for so many years. How could you have no feelings at all? After a pause, she added, but unfortunately, Jiang Yu is my boyfriend now, and he'll be my husband in the future. In this lifetime, don't even think about taking him away from me. I suggest you stay in the dorm during rehearsals and stop trying to flirt with him. I listened quietly and smiled. If you truly believe you're Jiang Yu's destined one, why would you be afraid of me? After all, what truly belongs to you can never be taken away, isn't that right? Chen Nua's expression changed drastically, filled with anger and panic. Why you're talking nonsense? I just don't want things to get too ugly between everyone. I ignored her and left. Chen Nua reminded me of something. I really should start preparing for the evening rehearsal, but not for Jiang Yu, it's for myself. There's something at the party that I'm determined to get. 5. There's one thing Chen Nua never knew. Jiang Yu is actually the illegitimate child of a wealthy family. In his previous life, at a banquet, Jiang Yu recognized his grandfather among the guests and had an emotional breakdown. He revealed to me his tragic childhood story of being abandoned by his scumbag father from a wealthy family, and his mother raising him alone in despair. In the end, he swore fiercely that he would make his scumbag father pay the price. Under the moonlight, Jiang Yu's eyes were slightly red, but his tone was firm. With the filter of the love-struck brain system, my affection surged and sympathy overflowed, so I decided to help him. So I painstakingly inquired about the preferences of the Jiang family patriarch. Deliberately scheming, I engineered countless chance encounters. After finally getting familiar with Grandpa Jiang, I coincidentally saved his life. This earned Jiang Yu a chance to return to his wealthy family. Because of this, a long scar was left on my calf. To protect Jiang Yu's dignity and reputation, I never even told him about this incident. Instead, she kept a low profile and remained the perfect girlfriend who revolved around Jiang Yu 24/7. The poor campus heartthrob boyfriend suddenly transformed into a wealthy young master. Everyone, including Jiang Yu and Chen Nua, thought I'd hit the jackpot. Only I knew it was all the result of my hard work. And this is the terrifying second step of the love-obsessed system, giving unreservedly without expecting anything in return. What appears to be a moving and beautiful love story actually only moves oneself. In others' eyes, it's not only worthless but even makes you a laughingstock. Just kidding. I've already saved the life of a wealthy tycoon. Why should I help Jiang Yu return to his wealthy family? If he wants to go home, can't he beg for it himself? Is my life not valuable? Why wouldn't I want to build this wealthy family myself? Isn't it appealing? I let out a faint sigh. Once again, I marvel at the horror of the love-obsessed system. Indeed, love blinds people. Sympathizing with men brings a lifetime of bad luck. This time, I must firmly grasp this opportunity with Grandpa Jiang, truly and genuinely change my own destiny. Following Grandpa Jiang's preferences from my past life, I began preparing the performance for the evening event. When I volunteered to perform sand painting, the teacher in charge of the evening party lightly furrowed her brows. Without hesitation, I brought out my tools and started painting right away. With deft strokes on the board, waves, coastlines, beaches, and flying birds came to life on the paper. The teacher's frown gradually eased. I grabbed another handful of sand and drew a perfectly round sun in the upper left corner of the picture. It's strange, it was just the simplest yellow sand, yet I could see the crimson hue of a rising sun in it. Not bad, very vibrant. It fits the uplifting theme of our school anniversary. The teacher approved my program and patted my shoulder, encouraging me to do well. I lowered my head to look at the sun again and smiled faintly. I have a feeling this will be my rebirth. 6. When Chen Nua saw me at the rehearsal venue, his facial features twisted in shock. She didn't even bother to explain to Jiangyu. Just dragged me straight to the bathroom and said through gritted teeth, "Didn't you say you wouldn't come?" I raised an eyebrow. When did I ever say I wasn't coming? At most, I remember promising you that I wouldn't interfere with your stage play, right? Chen Nua choked up, her expression extremely grim. She opened her mouth. "I'm warning you," I interrupted her. "Chen Nua, I'm not interested in him. You don't need to see me as an imaginary enemy either. In my past life, it was purely because of the system binding that I had to be with him. Who you choose for the mission is your business. It has nothing to do with me." Chen Nua studied my expression carefully. After realizing I was serious, she let out a sigh of relief. She grabbed my hand and forced a smile. "Meow meow, it's not that I don't trust you. After all, we've been such good sisters for so many years. I'm just a little worried. I'm too eager to climb up, too eager to succeed. Too eager to have an unconditional love. You understand me, don't you?" I quietly watched her. Once, I thought she was another version of me in this world. We came from the same remote small town. We both had fathers who were domestic abusers, mothers who were timid and yielding, and unruly younger brothers. Most of the time, our exam rankings were right next to each other. And even our college entrance exam scores were only a point or two apart. We worked part-time jobs together and saved up enough for tuition. Together, we dragged our suitcases onto the Greenskin train late at night. Let's escape from that suffocating home together. Let's come to the dream university together. I thought we would be best friends for life. Apparently, that was just my wishful thinking. I don't know since when. Chen Nua and I have been drifting apart. Perhaps, as she said, this isn't solely her fault. It's just a pity. I gently withdrew my hand from Chen Nua's grasp and said calmly, "My understanding doesn't matter." Chen Nua, I looked straight into her eyes. "From now on, we'll each have to walk our own paths." Under my gaze, Chen Nua's face visibly paled. Meow meow. "What do you mean?" I averted my gaze and pointed at Jiangyu approaching down the hallway. "Your boyfriend's here to pick you up. Let's go." I still couldn't understand why Chen Nua would pin all her hopes on a man, from beginning to end. The only person we can truly rely on is ourselves. Those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. We've finally reached the crossroads of life. It's time to say goodbye. 7. In the previous life, the first place winner of the evening gala could receive a 30,000 yuan reward sponsored by the Jiang family and an internship opportunity at Jiang Corporation. This is exactly what I want. I refuse to be the virtuous housewife standing behind a successful man. I want to shine brightly on stage myself, as a successful woman. So, I took rehearsals very seriously. Watching sand silently slip through my fingers, transforming into images in my mind, is a truly magical feeling, very stress-relieving and comfortable. Because I was spacing out, I didn't react when Jiangyu squatted in front of me. He smiled at me. "You're Nuanyu's friend, right?" I didn't want to be associated with Jiangyu, so I calmly said, "We're just ordinary classmates." Jiangyu smiled even more deeply. "Well then, shall we get acquainted? I've been noticing you for a while now." I frowned. "What do you mean by that?" Jiangyu froze momentarily, then struck what he thought was a handsome pose before continuing. "No particular meaning. I just think you look beautiful when painting and wanted to get to know you." I calmly packed my things and stood up. "Sorry, I don't want to know you." Jiangyu grabbed me. "Hey classmate, don't be so cold," I retorted. "Chen Nua is your girlfriend, right?" Jiangyu replied frankly. "Yes, so what?" He came to his senses and suddenly said, "She doesn't have to be my girlfriend." I ignored him and walked away without looking back. As I left, I saw Chen Nua at the corner. Her eyes were blazing with anger, as if she wanted to tear me apart. She rushed over, knocked over my tools, grabbed my collar and yelled, "Su Miao, I told you to stay away from Jiangyu." I frowned. "I'm telling you, people who think you're the main characters in some romance drama, could you stay away from us NPCs who just want to live our lives in peace? These past few days have been packed with rehearsals and final exam prep to get that scholarship. My head's about to explode. I was already annoyed to begin with. I can't bear to be the third wheel in your earth-shattering love story anymore." Chen Nua doesn't care whether I'm annoying or not. She's still going on and on. She's hurled every insult imaginable: shameless, two-faced, hypocritical scoundrel. Even people rehearsing in other classrooms came out to poke their heads and join the excitement. Holy crap, what's going on here? Shocking scoop, the school heartthrob is actually a scumbag. I couldn't take it anymore and directly pulled out Jianyu, who was trying to sneak away from the corner. Jianyu, explain to your girlfriend yourself what's really going on. Jianyu's face turned green. How could the campus heartthrob who basks in flowers and praise handle such a situation? After stammering for a while, he suddenly said, sorry Nuonuo, it was classmate Sue who asked me to come. I really don't know what she wanted. Chen Nuo wore an expression that said I knew it. 8. The onlookers gasped in shock. I truly never expected Jianyu to be this shameless. I couldn't help but laugh. Are you trying to scam me here? Fine, then let me show you what it means to reap what you sow. I silently took out my phone and pressed play. Then, with a smile to Jianyu whose face had changed dramatically, I said, classmate, sorry about this. I have a habit of recording beautiful moments, and I usually film a video while painting. You wouldn't sue me for invading your privacy, would you? After all, you're the one who came over here. On screen, Jianyu swaggers into the classroom like he owns the place, spouting outdated pickup lines right next to me. That line, she doesn't have to be my girlfriend, was recorded with unusual clarity. My silence is deafening. For a moment, the narrow corridor fell into complete silence. Everyone looked at Chen Nua with sympathy in their eyes. Someone whispered, I never expected the school heartthrob to be this kind of person. Oh well. Handsome guys like this usually play around, haven't you heard? 9 out of 10 handsome guys are players, and the 10th is at a gay bar. LOL. Chen Nua was thunderstruck, staring fixedly at the phone in my hand. Impossible. This can't be. I shrugged. Believe it or not. Can I leave now? I still need to rush back for my part-time job. Chen Nua looked at Jianyu. He was still being stubborn. No, Nua, let me explain. Chen Nua broke down. Explain my ass. I worked 3 jobs to buy you AJs. And I couldn't even afford 1 meat and 1 vegetable dish for my meals. Everything you wear, use, eat, and drink. Which of these didn't come from my scrimping and saving? How dare you cheat on me? The onlookers were stunned. Holy crap, no way. Is Jianyu a freeloader? This girl is so pitiful. Scumbag deserves to die. I shook my head, left. What kind of logic is it that just by binding to a system, one can become the protagonist, even with a system? Effort is still required to reap rewards. In his previous life, Jianyu wasn't without instances of infidelity, but when I complained to Chen Nua, she believed it was because I wasn't good or considerate enough that Jianyu strayed. She advised me to be kind and generous, using sincerity to win him over. With my love-struck mind, I believed it, returning good for evil, diligent and earnest. Like Jiangyu's personal caretaker, Chenna wasn't unaware of these things. But it seemed she had forgotten them all, stubbornly believing that I could effortlessly become the privileged CEO's wife. Since she thinks I'm blocking her path to wealth, I might as well stop interfering. One doesn't know the pain until the knife cuts their own flesh. Why isn't Chen Nua now advising herself that it's because she wasn't considerate enough that Jianyu would cheat? Rumor has it that Jianyu and Chen Nua eventually reconciled. 9. Jianyu swore he would change. And Chen Nua believed him. After all, there's still that love-struck system in place. I'm not surprised, but I never expected to see Chen Nua at the restaurant where I worked part-time. She was also there for a part-time job, without the disguise of makeup, wearing the most ordinary clothes. She looked even more haggard. Seeing me, she froze for a moment, then gave a faint smile. Meow meow, you're here. I quietly stepped further away from her, but Chen Nua still leaned in and said on her own. I've already made things clear with Jianyu. He said that day he was just curious about what my good friend looked like, so he went to see you. Now he realizes it was wrong to privately contact his girlfriend's best friend, and he won't do it again. After a pause, she then accused me. Couldn't you have waited to tell me this trivial matter when no one was around? You just had to play that video in front of everyone. Now Jianyu hasn't dared to leave his dorm for classes recently. But it's fine, staying in the dorm is good for him. He can get some proper rest for a while. After all that rehearsal, he's exhausted. After finishing this job, I'll have just enough to add another dish for him. Silence. I remained silent for a long time. Chen Nua, under the control of her love-struck system, has become completely unreasonable. I couldn't help but start to reminisce. Did I say something like this in my past life too? It seems so. I shuddered violently. This unconditional indulgence means paying for others' mistakes. Still trying to convince myself to believe all of this. It's absolutely terrifying. I glanced sorrowfully at the dazed Chen Nua. like seeing my former self. Noticing my gaze, Chen Nua leaned in closer. Meow meow. When do you think Jiang Yu will be recognized by the Jiang family in this lifetime? I remember it was about a month after the school anniversary gala in the previous life. She gave a smile. How wonderful. Just over a month more, and I'll have everything I want. In the end, she glanced at me as if bestowing charity. Don't worry too much either. After all, we've been good sisters for so many years. When the time comes, I definitely won't treat you unfairly, unlike your previous life, where you didn't give me any benefits at all. How about it? Am I being considerate enough? These words successfully dispelled the fleeting sense of pity I had just begun to feel. The scene of me advising her not to pick up this system's interface is still vivid in my mind. This is the path Chen Nua chose for herself. What right do I have to sympathize? I shook my head and went about my own business. Soon it was the day of the school anniversary gala. 10. I got everything ready and waited backstage. Jiang Yu's performance was scheduled right before mine, standing right in front of me at this moment. The recent scandal about him being a jerk doesn't seem to have affected him much. Everyone's just here for the drama. When the hype fades, the crowd disperses. Now he's chatting with the person next to him without a care in the world. Suddenly, he looked up in my direction with a heavy gaze. There's something seriously off about that look. I was taken aback. Before I could think further, Chen Nua suddenly grabbed me pitifully. Meow meow. My stomach hurts a bit. Could you accompany me to the restroom to check? Her face was deathly pale, beyond what blush could conceal. Remembering her menstrual pain issues, I hesitated for a moment before finally nodding in agreement. In the restroom, Chen Nu clutched her stomach and said weakly, "Thank you, meow meow." I turned my head away without responding. Chen Nua wasn't annoyed either, walking out leisurely. Watching her unsteady figure, I couldn't help saying, if it really hurts too much, just skip the performance, there are understudies anyway. Chen Nua didn't stop walking, murmuring softly, "No, I won't let anyone take Jiang Yu from me." Chen Nua's performance was fairly successful. It's my turn to go on stage. I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage, accompanied by gentle background music and narration. The sand transformed freely in my hands. Suddenly, I frowned. In the clean, soft sand, there inexplicably appeared some white powder. Where did these things come from? I had a vague sense of foreboding in my heart, but I've already stepped onto the stage to perform, and now there's no way I can call for a stop. Suppressing the unease in my heart, I began to paint earnestly. Su meow, go for it. This is your most efficient and convenient opportunity to change your fate. Success is the only option. Failure is not permitted. Gradually, my hand that came into contact with the powder grew increasingly itchy. I know what that is. Talcum powder. I'm allergic to talcum powder. Ever since I was a child, whenever I come into contact with talcum powder for more than 2 minutes, I immediately develop rashes all over my body and experience unbearable itching. The worst time, I almost went into shock, and only 2 people know about my talcum powder allergy. One is Jiang Yu from our past life together. The other one is Chen Nua. For a moment, I couldn't even tell which was more agonizing, the pain of betrayal or the bone-deep itching in my hands. I clenched my teeth tightly, resisting the urge to scratch. With trembling hands, I struggled to complete the sand painting. I forcibly shortened the 8-minute performance to 5 minutes. Even so, after stepping off stage, I couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. 11. Meow meow, you're awake. Chen Nua's eyes were full of concern, but all I could see was her hypocrisy. I closed my eyes briefly. Why are you here? I don't want to see you. Chen Nua wanted to grab my hand. Seeing it smeared with ointment, he abruptly changed course. He grabbed the blanket I was covered with. Meow meow, I'm sorry, but Jiang Yu told me he absolutely must win first place this time. You're too amazing. He was afraid he couldn't compete with you. That's why he asked for my help. Meow meow, I'm truly so sorry. You can hit me or scold me. I won't fight back at all. Enough. I interrupted her impatiently. I had no intention of arguing with her about Jiang Yu. All I could think was how she'd attacked my weakness over a man. I was even more furious than when I discovered she chose Jiang Yu, because this can no longer be explained by the love-struck system. Even in my previous life when I was controlled by the love-struck system for 5 years, I never did anything to harm Chen Nua. Not only did she ignore my warnings, she insisted on binding with the system. Now she's even turning around to stab me in the back. My chest heaved violently. Anger burned like a flame within me. Chen Nua, get out of my hospital room right now, this instant. I never want to see you again. From this moment on, all ties between us are severed. Chen Nua stared in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. Meow meow, you're actually cutting ties with me over such a trivial matter. All you lost was first place, but what Jiang Yu stands to lose is his bright future. I turned my head away. Then go guard his bright future. Don't come looking for me again. With that, I pressed the nurse call button. Hello, someone here is disturbing my rest, could you come check? Chen Nua was reluctantly driven away by the nurse. Before leaving, her eyes were filled with aggrieved tears as she looked at me. I used to fall for her tricks all the time. No matter what the conflict was, I'd always give in when she started crying, because I thought we might be the two people who knew each other best in this world. It's not easy to find such a like-minded friend. I don't want to lose her, and now, Chen Nua has crossed my bottom line. I can't tolerate it anymore. I took out a note from my pocket. What's written above are some of Grandpa John's hobbies and places he usually visits. I originally wanted to remind Chen Nua, Jiang Yu wouldn't be recognized by the wealthy family without reason. Now it seems unnecessary. I expressionlessly threw the note into the trash can. During these days I was hospitalized. 12. The teacher in charge of rehearsals brought good news. I'm still in first place. The sponsor, Jiang Corporation, acknowledged my dedication to completing the performance despite having an itchy hand. They offered me the opportunity to intern at Jiang Corporation. Although I didn't win the tens of thousands in prize money, I'm still very content with what I got. As for Chen Nua and Jiang Yu, I certainly won't let them off either. After asking the nurse to help take photos of my hands covered in rashes, I called the police. I knew this wouldn't be enough to put Jiang Yu and Chen Nua behind bars, but I must teach them a lesson, let them know I'm not someone to be bullied. Unexpectedly, Grandpa Jiang came to see me too. He said he'd secretly watched our rehearsals several times and thought I was very diligent. Although there were some minor hiccups during my performance at the party, overall it went quite smoothly. He invited me to intern at his art company. Essentially, it's the prize for winning first place at the party. I was flattered beyond measure. I never expected Grandpa Jiang to come in person. This is such an unexpected delight. With this, my internship is practically confirmed. The next goal is to secure a formal offer from Jiang Corporation. I want to stay in the big city and fight for my own life, not just someone's wife or girlfriend. I am my own person. After that day, I didn't see Jiang Yu and Chen Nua for a long time. Just when I thought this matter would pass and they would completely disappear from my life, I was kidnapped by Jiang Yu. When I opened my eyes, I saw Jiang Yu sitting across from me. 13. He was hanging his head, lost in thought. I took a look around, realized this must be the abandoned teaching building in the old campus. Because it's a familiar environment, I wasn't flustered. Jiang Yu, have you lost your mind? Jiang Yu smiled faintly, wearing the exact same expression as when he domestically abused me in my past life. His voice was sickeningly sweet as he touched my cheek. Meow meow, how am I crazy? In our past life, wasn't I always like this? My pupils constricted. Jiang Yu, he has also been reborn, suppressing the discomfort in my heart. I forced myself to play dumb. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Aren't you Chen Nua's boyfriend? What does that have to do with me? Jiang Yu let out a mocking laugh. Oh dear, my girlfriend won't acknowledge me. It really makes me sad, but it's okay. Meow meow. I know you're angry about me being with Chen Nua. Don't worry, she's not as capable as you. In my heart, you'll always be number one. All you need to do is help me return to the Jiang family. I promise you. When the time comes, you'll be my only wife. I'll give you everything you desire, unreserved devotion, power, status, all that you could wish for. Seeing Jiang Yu's expression that said, you love me so much, how could you refuse me, and you're getting the better deal by agreeing, I choked up. No way, seriously, he doesn't actually think he's charming, does he? A man's greatest charm comes from the opposite sex's imagination, without that love-struck system binding me. Why should I give you a second glance? There are plenty of guys more attractive than you. Why should I give up the entire forest for a single crooked tree? I was just about to tear into him. Chen Nua suddenly appeared out of nowhere, holding a knife with a terrifying expression. She didn't even glance at me, charging straight towards Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu stumbled backward in fear, stammering incoherently, Nua Nua. What are you doing? Chen Nua forced him back into the corner. Jiang Yu, I love you so much, yet you treat me like a dog. Since you refuse to be with me, let's die together then. As she spoke, she moved to stab Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu was completely stunned. At the critical moment, the blaring sirens approached from afar. The police are here. Actually, I had long suspected that Jiangyu might have remembered something too. His inexplicable approach and obscure gaze before the performance were both highly suspicious. 14. That's why I had long prepared a small alarm and a miniature camera, to prevent him from being driven to desperate measures and taking me down with him, but I never expected Chen Nua to be this insane as well. After the police released me, I looked at Chen Nua being escorted away with mixed emotions. Her facial expression was unpredictable. When she saw me, there was a sudden moment of clarity in her eyes. A tear fell as she struggled to say, I'm sorry, meow meow, I was wrong. Has she broken free from the system's control? I rushed over excitedly. I was taken aback. Upon closer inspection, Chen Nua had reverted to that frenzied state again. She turned her head to look at Jiangyu. Jiangyu, see, even when captured, we're together. I am your destined one. You'll never get rid of me. I sighed. My heart ached with bitterness. Jiangyu nearby was still going crazy, shouting, I'm the heir of the Jiang Corporation. You can't treat me like this. My grandpa is coming soon. And you'll regret it when he arrives. Of course, Grandpa Jiang didn't come to bail him out. In the end, Jiangyu went to prison for kidnapping. Being a simp for a man is disgusting enough for one lifetime. Who would do it for two? As for me, I went to intern at Jiang Corporation, relying on memories and abilities from my past life. I successfully secured a full-time offer. I also earned a small sum through sand painting live streams online. I paid the down payment for a small apartment of my own in the big city. Occasionally, I would go visit her. She sat by the bedside, her eyes vacant, murmuring, I am the protagonist of this world. I sighed softly. Even now, she still doesn't understand. Whether there's a system or not, everything must be achieved through one's own hands. The system can provide temporary shortcuts, but it cannot provide a lifetime. We can only rely on ourselves. Depend on mountains and they'll collapse. Depend on people and they'll flee. You are your own greatest support. The end. Story 2. After being beaten to death by domestic violence, I was reborn and returned to the age of 18, the year when I loved him the most. That year, with my hands in my pockets, I had never seen a more obsequious person than myself, but this time, that gloomy teenager who was isolated by the whole class grabbed my hand. His eyes were red as he said, Ning Bao, don't like Heat Songwei, you will die. 1. Heat Songwei's fist landed on my face without hesitation. My whole body was already in extreme pain, and my vision was stained red by my own blood. Even crying had become a luxury, until Heat Songwei raised his foot and stomped heavily on my head. Damn woman, if you like me, then die for me. I finally closed my eyes. My consciousness was in a momentary halt. I moved my fingers and found that the pain all over my body had disappeared. I opened my eyes suddenly. Heat Songwei. I instinctively shouted out this name, but then I was stunned by the scene in front of me. There were row upon row of desks in front of me, and around me were all the familiar faces from my high school days. They looked at me in surprise, and some were even whispering to each other. On the podium in the front, the head teacher, Lao Hong, was frowning and looking at me. Wait a minute, Lao Hong, didn't he die of illness a few years ago? Lu Yining, it's self-study now, what are you babbling about? I looked down at myself and saw the school uniform of No. 5 middle school that I remembered deeply. I stretched out my hands, and there were no scars or bloodstains on them. The next second, I looked at the straight-backed figure in front of me. Heat Songwei. In high school, he always sat in front of me. I reached out my hand in disbelief and patted him on the shoulder. That familiar face turned around, showing a vaguely familiar helpless expression. I covered my mouth in horror and let out a scream. After clearly seeing Heat Songwei's face, fear mixed with hatred welled up in my heart. This time I was finally able to confirm that everything in front of me was real. This was the year when I loved Heat Songwei the most, and it was also my long-lost 18th birthday, too. The day when the college entrance examination ended always appeared in my mind. That day was the last time I confessed my love to Heat Songwei. I said, Heat Songwei, I won't come to you anymore in the future, if you really can't like me. It doesn't matter. Let other boys take care of the matter of liking me. Heat Songwei showed a flustered look for the first time, and he grabbed my hand. Lu Yining, you provoked me, and now you want to leave. Starting from that sentence, I, the obsequious one, became Heat Songwei's girlfriend. I thought that my long and lonely secret love had finally come to an end. Still in a daze, in the office, Lao Hong's angry shout brought me back to my senses. At this moment, Lao Hong was still that chubby guy. Not like in that black and white photo, tortured by illness and so thin that he was unrecognizable. although he was very strict. He was our favorite homeroom teacher. Ening, you are all adolescent boys and girls, it's normal to have someone you like, but my advice to you is to focus on your studies at this stage. Your future is more important than anyone else's. If it were before, I would definitely not have taken these words to heart. Before, Lao Hong also said these words to me. At that time, I only thought that my love was greater than the sky, and the people I missed in my youth would never come back, but now I don't think so. Only after experiencing it myself can I truly understand that Lao Hong really has my best interests at heart. My nose was sore, and I was very touched. Okay, teacher. I know I was wrong. Lao Hong nodded in satisfaction. Then, he turned to the other side. And you, why have you been picking a fight with Heath Sung-wei recently? You've been chasing after him and hitting him all day long. Who was he hitting? Heath Sung-wei. Only then did I notice that there was another person standing on the other side of the teacher's office. That teenager had a tall and straight figure. His baseball uniform was torn with a long gash. He was holding a school bag in one hand. And there was a wound on his forehead. He was like a defeated wild beast, standing quietly in the corner. After a while, I remembered his name, Chin Jiashu. Chin Jiashu suddenly looked up at me, and I unexpectedly fell into those dark eyes. Chin Jiashu was a very special presence in the class. He had a liberal personality, but he was tall, straight, and handsome. He was fierce and ruthless when fighting. Simply the standard male protagonist in a campus romance novel. However, although there were countless girls who adored him, no one dared to confess to him, because there had always been rumors that Chin Jiashu's father had a mental illness and had killed his mother with his own hands. One day, the desperate Chin Jiashu carried his mother, who was covered in blood, around seeking help. Despite all his efforts, he couldn't save his mother's life. When this matter spread, it caused a huge stir. Everyone thought that Chin Jiashu might have inherited his father's mental illness, and his love for fighting seemed to be a traceable violent tendency. If someone got too close to Chin Jiashu, it might very well mean facing the same fate as his mother. So, everyone was willing to be polite to Chin Jiashu on the surface, but it was only limited to being polite. The classmates were afraid of him, intimidated by him, and didn't want to get close to him even more. Behind his back, his pitiful life experience sometimes became the topic of conversation among everyone. Chin Jiashu had never explained anything either. In my memory, Chin Jiashu and I didn't have much interaction, and I couldn't remember any contact between him and Heath Sung-wei. He deserves to die. The teenager in the corner spoke in a gloomy tone. He expressionlessly stretched out one hand and wiped the wound on the corner of his mouth. Lao Hong was drinking water and directly spat it out. The words from Chin Jiashu were quite terrifying, and even the other teachers in the office were startled. Ahem, don't say angry words. You have some minor fights among classmates, and I won't report it to the school, but next time, even if you fight, don't hurt yourself or your classmates. Until Lao Hong finished his lecture, Chin Jiashu and I left one after another, preparing to go back to class. But just as we were going down the stairs, Chin Jiashu suddenly stopped. I didn't stop in time and bumped hard into his back. I rubbed my nose, and tears welled up in my eyes from the pain. Are you crying? Probably not expecting me to look like this. Chin Jiashu was a bit at a loss. Why did you hit Heath Sung-wei? I didn't answer but asked while covering my nose. So, did you cry because of him? Even standing on a higher step, Chin Jiashu was still half a head taller than me. He looked down at me with lowered eyebrows, and his expression was full of mockery. No. I shook my head. Well done. Take me with you next time. I winked at him and gave him a thumbs up. This time, it was Chin Jiashu's turn to be stunned. 3. I lowered my head and looked at Chin Jiashu's injured fist. The joints there were already red and swollen. Does it hurt? I asked softly. In front of me, he moved his lips, and his eyes were stubborn. No, how could it not hurt? Although I didn't know what it was like to hit someone, no one knew better than me what it was like to be beaten. No matter how tough a person's bones were, at the moment of falling to the ground, the brain would have a momentary halt. It was as if the whole body was briefly pressed with the space bar. When Heath Sung-wei hit me, this feeling would be intertwined with fear, and over time, it would slowly be branded deep in my memory. I couldn't help but hold my breath. Then did you win the fight? I asked again. I pinned him next to the urinal in the boys' restroom. He was more seriously injured than me. Standing on the stairs, I suddenly laughed, and a sense of pleasure welled up in my heart. It was as if I was seeing that scene unfold before my eyes. Lu Yining, what are you laughing at? Chin Jiashu frowned slightly. Of course, he wouldn't understand that I was laughing at Hitsongwei, who had always regarded himself as the favored one of heaven, in this second chance. His high school life that was surrounded by admiration actually left such a vivid mark. Chinjiashu, well done. You have to win every time in the future. I was just cheering, but as soon as the words left my mouth, a figure slowly walked up from below the stairs. Hitsongwei stopped in his tracks, his face was full of uncertainty, and it was obvious that he had heard the conversation between me and Chinjiashu just now. I wasn't sure what he had heard, however. This time, I was truly meeting the 18-year-old Hitsongwei again. The memories in my mind were like the pages of a book, being blown by the wind and stopping at the year when I loved Hitsongwei the most. I had done a lot of stupid things. For example, I requested a love song for him at the broadcasting station and finally high-profilely attached my own name, making the whole school know about it. I also once blocked Hitsongwei in the corner of the basketball court, stood on tiptoe, and gave him my first kiss, amid the jeers of the crowd. Hitsongwei gradually blushed. I couldn't tell whether the expression on his face was anger or excitement. I only remembered that Hitsongwei desperately wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and finally, his face changed, and he rushed towards the restroom. His basketball team teammates almost laughed themselves to death, saying that Hitsongwei must have been made to vomit by my kiss. At that time, I was not afraid at all, thinking that everyone's ridicule would only make me move forward more bravely. Hitsongwei was originally the school heartthrob, and such a title made the story between us more spreadable. I recklessly announced my love for him to the whole world. At that time, in the face of my repeated confessions, the expression on Hitsongwei's face was exactly the same as it was now. The two faces of Hitsongwei overlapped across time and space, and it seemed that nothing had changed. He still looked so impatient with me. After experiencing a long and painful married life, standing in front of him again, all I felt was fear. I was a bit uneasy and instinctively tightened my grip on Chinjiashu's arm. My such action made both Chinjiashu and Hitsongwei stunned for a moment. What are you two doing here instead of going back to class? Hitsongwei's tone was full of questioning. As the monitor, it was only natural for him to ask about attendance. Hearing this familiar voice, in the past, I would have been overjoyed, but now, I didn't even dare to meet his eyes, and my body was slightly trembling. It turned out that I had not only lost the ability to love someone, it seemed that I couldn't get along with Hitsongwei calmly anymore either. I tried my best to make my voice sound steady. We were just about to go back. You too. Hitsongwei raised his head, and his gaze lingered on the hand where I was holding Chinjiashu's arm. Lu Yining, you've been acting strange since just now. Why did you suddenly shout my name during the self-study class just now? Hitsongwei paused, and there was an inquiring tone in his voice. Are you okay? For a moment, I didn't know how to explain, and sweat broke out on my forehead. The more I was questioned like this, the more I wanted to escape. I didn't know if Chinjiashu sensed my nervousness. He moved his body and completely stood between me and Hitsongwei, blocking that inquiring gaze. She's fine. Just now in the office, Lu Yining promised Lao Hong that she would concentrate and study hard. From now on, you should stay away from her, Chinjiashu said coldly. Hitsongwei's eyes changed color, and his tone was unfriendly. What do you mean by that? Do I need to make it clearer? The mocking look on Chinjiashu's face gradually deepened. What I mean is, get lost as far away as possible, even if it means dropping out of school or moving away. You'd better disappear completely from this world. Hitsongwei was completely enraged. I said, Chinjiashu, I don't think I've ever offended you, right? What do you mean by always speaking as if you want me to die? My tolerance also has a limit. I hope you speak more politely. The matter between me and Lu Yining doesn't need your interference. I know what I'm doing, and you should make it clear that it's Lu Yining who likes me. It's not that I'm chasing after her. At the end, as if showing off his spoils of war, Hitsongwei took a step forward and grabbed my arm. He seemed a bit unhappy and wanted to regain the upper hand in this way. Lu Yining, the class time is coming soon. It's still not too late for you to go back with me now. Don't hang out with such a bad student. I knew that Hitsongwei must have thought that I would go with him. The previous Lu Yining was indeed like a dog that was willing to wag its tail at Hitsongwei even without a bone, but now, in front of me, on one side was Hitsongwei's outstretched hand, on the other side, it was Chinjiashu's torn baseball uniform. I resolutely tightened my grip on the corner of my clothes, and my feet seemed to be rooted to the ground, not moving at all. I held back my nausea and said, I have legs and can walk by myself. you don't need to worry about it. These words were like a dagger, piercing through Hee Seung-wai's confident mask. Even when I walked into the classroom side by side with Chin Jiashu later and passed by Hee Seung-wai's desk, he was still looking at me with a bit of surprise. I was very different from before. Hee Seung-wai must also be unable to figure out what made me, the obsequious one, wake up. Did he really love me, with this second chance? I saw clearly the heart of the 18-year-old Hee Seung-wai. This wasn't love. He was just used to being looked up to with such adoring eyes by me. Once he lost someone like me who looked up to him, certain things would no longer have meaning. After all, this clown, could still find some amusement in my spare time. So, that's why he had that reaction when I confessed to Hee Seung-wai for the last time. If you love someone, you can feel the most passionate resonance of the heart in the first moment. Love isn't about sacrificing oneself meaninglessly over a huge amount of time. Adding one's own tears and the self-esteem that has been exhausted, and humbly exchanging for it. The person you love must also love you equally. Unfortunately, I had to pay with my life to understand this truth. Biting the tip of my pen, I searched through my memories and couldn't remember this scene on the stairs at all. Could it be that there was something wrong with my previous memories? I turned my head and secretly looked at Chin Jiashu, who was sitting in the corner of the last row. At this moment, he was sleeping with one arm pillowed under his head and his eyes closed. He had a tall and straight nose bridge. His lips were slightly pursed, giving off a somewhat gentle aura. He was completely different from the Chin Jiashu who could be deadly when fighting. Chin Jiashu, what kind of person was he exactly? I knew nothing about the answer to this question. I didn't know Chin Jiashu. To me, who had been reborn, he was like a blank sheet of paper. Just then, Hee Seung-wai, who was sitting in front of me, suddenly turned around. He said to me in a low voice, "Shall we talk after class?" I pretended not to hear him. After class, I grabbed my good friend and rushed to the school's convenience store. Only when I held the cup of milk tea that I missed the most in the depths of my memory did I finally feel a trace of joy in my heart. This was the most wonderful memory that should have been had in high school. Good friends who played and fooled around. The snacks I liked the most, the endless examination papers, the concerned words of the homeroom teacher, and the seemingly bright and promising future. I stood at the door of the convenience store, a bit lost in thought. It turned out that these were the most memorable parts of my youth. 6. Obviously, Hee Seung-wai didn't let me go. He waited at the corner of the teaching building. When he saw me appear, he immediately came up to me. "Stay away from Chin Jiashu. What kind of good person do you think he is? He's very dangerous." Hee Seung-wai was a bit anxious. People who didn't know the situation might have thought he cared a lot about me. My thoughts couldn't help but drift back. After we graduated from university, we quickly got our marriage certificate and held a wedding under the blessings and witness of our relatives and friends. This seemed like a happy beginning. In fact, from that day on, I stepped into a nightmare like an abyss. At first, Hee Seung-wai would occasionally say some rather harsh words to me. I didn't know why he would suddenly lose his temper. Every time I asked him, he would keep silent. However, Hee Seung-wai was a very macho man and would never take the initiative to tell me what happened outside. So at the beginning, when he lost control of his emotions, I just thought he was in a bad mood and often chose to endure it silently. I thought that changing from lovers to husband and wife always required more running in and tolerance. Perhaps with a little more time, we could get more used to married life. I never expected that later, Hee Seung-wai completely changed into a different person. Whenever he was under great pressure, he would be moody. At the mildest, he would abuse me verbally, and at the worst, he would beat and kick me. The most serious time, I was dragged by my hair by him and beaten from home to the elevator entrance. I was slapped until my face was black and blue, and I could hardly even lift a finger. Every time after beating me, Hee Seung-wai would seem to wake up completely and hug me while crying bitterly. He said he didn't know what was wrong with him. Every time he lost control, he couldn't help hurting the people around him, and I was the only one around him. He was willing to kneel down for me, slap himself in the face, and even bang his head against the wall. From this time on, I had already sensed that something was wrong. I wanted to stop this terrible marriage, but it was too late. I had already lost all the initiative. Hee Seung-wai tore up my divorce agreement time and time again, and his attitude towards me became even worse. He even used some means that I couldn't accept to humiliate me. "Don't forget how you clung to me back then. These are all your obligations as a wife. Ening, I love you so much." In such repeated and confused words, he was gradually tearing my self-esteem apart bit by bit. I had long since extinguished the last glimmer of hope until I died. 7. I asked Hitsungwei. Chinjiashu isn't a good person. Why? Because his father was a psychopath and killed his mother. Chinjiashu is the child of a murderer. Hitsungwei paused and then said, they say the offspring of a mouse can dig holes. If you get too close to him, what kind of good ending do you think you'll have? I took a step forward, getting very close to Hitsungwei. The faint smell of laundry powder on him lingered in my nose. In the past, such a scene would have made me wake up with a smile in my dreams, but now, I felt like vomiting. Then what about getting close to you? I smiled and said, will I die? His face changed, as if he was offended and extremely unhappy. What are you talking nonsense about, Lu Yining? I'm caring about you. Don't take my kindness for ill will. Hitsungwei took a deep breath, as if trying his best to hold back something. I know that my constant rejection of your confessions may have made you feel embarrassed. I interrupted him. I don't like you anymore. The atmosphere turned awkward, and there was a momentary stagnation for a few seconds. You, what did you say? Hitsungwei couldn't believe my words and slowly widened his eyes. I gripped the milk tea tightly and said word by word. I said, I don't like you anymore. We shouldn't have any more contact with each other in the future. After saying these words, somehow, the huge stone that had been weighing on my heart seemed to have finally landed. It was as if I had finally given a clean and straightforward account to that dead self. It was also like finally putting an end to that failed marriage with my own hands. Hitsungwei's expression was stunned. Just like when he heard that I was about to withdraw from this one-sided love after the college entrance examination. Lu Yining, what trick are you playing on me this time? Are you using retreat as an advance? I'm not falling for this. If you don't fall for this, then go to hell. Sure enough, this person still believed that this was another way for me to attract his attention. I slowly opened my mouth and said, remember, in the next few years, there will be a popular internet term called ordinary but competent man. It's generally used to describe an ordinary yet competent boy, which is quite similar to your current state. Hitsungwei said unhappily, do you mean that I'm ordinary? I increasingly felt that I was blind back then. I didn't want to continue this meaningless conversation, so I turned around and left. But I didn't expect that Chinjiashu had been behind me all along. I blinked. Chinjiashu's bright black eyes were fixed on me. With a hidden smile, he took the cold cup of Xiangpiopio milk tea from my hand with one hand and took out a cup of warmed milk tea from his baseball uniform with the other hand. Chinjiashu handed me the warm cup of milk tea. He seemed to be in a very good mood. When he looked at Hitsungwei over my shoulder, his eyes were provocative, but he gently curved his lips. The young man's expression was unrestrained and confident, as if he had just won a silent victory. In my puzzled gaze, Chinjiashu lowered his head and took a sip from the straw of the cold milk tea. My heart stirred slightly, but I had clearly drunk from this cup just now. 8. Seeing Chinjiashu come over, looking like he was backing me up, Hitsungwei left in a huff. Before leaving, his eyes swept heavily over the cup of milk tea in my hand. I was a bit touched and also found it a bit funny. Why did Chinjiashu seem like Hitsungwei's sworn enemy, every time? Hitsungwei seemed to care a lot about him. If I hadn't returned to the age of 18, perhaps familiar yet unfamiliar features of this young man, I had an indescribable feeling in my heart. Hey, Chinjiashu, how did you know that I like taro-flavored milk tea? Choked by my sudden question, Chinjiashu suddenly coughed, and even the tips of his ears turned slightly red. It was clearly the coldest time of winter, and he was wearing a very thin baseball uniform, but the milk tea in my hand was warm because of his body temperature. Chinjiashu was just about to speak, but I interrupted him. Anyway, thank you. What did you say? Chinjiashu seemed not to have heard clearly and leaned his head closer. I said thank you. Thank you for always appearing by my side in time. Chinjiashu was 185 meters tall. I thought it was because of the height difference that he couldn't hear clearly, so I stood on tiptoe, leaned closer to him, and was about to thank him loudly again, but the next second, with a mischievous smile on his face, Chinjiashu touched my head that I had leaned in. Lu Yining, if you really want to thank me, why don't you teach me how to study? When he touched my head, his movement was very gentle, and his eyes were filled with doting. I blinked. This small action was like a feather gently brushing against my heart. Obviously, this gloomy young man in the eyes of others seemed fierce and unruly, but when he faced me, he was always very cautious. I agreed to Chinjiashu's request. Back then, I was the top scorer in liberal arts at school. For Hitsungwei, I gave up my favorite school and major and settled for an ordinary first-class university. this time, if possible, I want to leave more love for myself, and my own dreams. Hearing that I agreed so readily, Chinjiashu asked, aren't you afraid of me? I was a bit confused. You also have 2 eyes and 1 nose, what should I be afraid of? Chinjiashu continued, just like everyone else. Are you afraid of me because I'm the child of a mentally ill person, afraid that one day I will lose control of my emotions and do terrible things to you? I shook my head. Chinjiashu, does it matter how I think about this? The most important thing should be your own heart. Don't listen to the voices outside, whether it was before or now. I have never had any prejudice against Chinjiashu because of his family background for a single moment. We are all born this way, and we can't choose our original families. Who isn't an ordinary person with their own flaws? My father didn't kill my mother. Chinjiashu stared at me, somewhat moved. After a while, he retracted his gaze and said lightly, I've never told anyone about this. You're the first. In a daze. I was actually a bit surprised. For so many years, he had been living under the label of the child of a murderer and had been isolated by everyone to some extent. Chinjiashu had never explained this matter to anyone, but only when facing me was he willing to pour out his secrets word by word. 9. I applied to Lao Hong to become deskmates with Chinjiashu. There had always been a tradition of mutual assistance study groups in the class. Lao Hong was very happy to see that I was focusing on my studies. And he was also glad that Chinjiashu had finally seen the light. Now, Chinjiashu was my new study partner. I asked him to sign a written agreement with me that he wouldn't fight easily in the future, and Chinjiashu obediently did as I said. After becoming deskmates with him, I realized that Chinjiashu was a person who would be very serious once he made up his mind to do something. When he said, please teach me how to study, he wasn't just saying it for fun. Chinjiashu was truly taking a very serious attitude to treat the matter of studying again. Every morning during the self-study class, his figure would be the first to appear in the classroom, and he would also help Lao Hong clean the blackboard spotlessly. I knew that Lao Hong had a very serious case of arthritis. Chinjiashu seemed to be grumpy towards the whole world, but in fact, he had a very kind heart. Even though the whole class thought he was terrible, he still chose to be a very good person. Everything was going smoothly, but Hitsongwei would always deliberately or inadvertently show up in front of me, especially after my relationship with Chinjiashu improved. I thought I had made it clear enough to Hitsongwei, but I didn't expect that my indifference made Hitsongwei go even further. One day, as I passed by the basketball court and was thinking about creating questions for Chinjiashu, the boys inside suddenly whistled at me. I turned my head and saw Hitsongwei's friends wearing meaningful smiles. Sister-in-law, where are you going? I immediately felt nauseous and had a physical aversion to this address. I've already made it clear to Hitsongwei that I won't pester him anymore in the future. Since he doesn't like me, there's no need for you to make jokes about us anymore. It's disrespectful to everyone. I confronted them with a serious face, until Hitsongwei came out dribbling a basketball. Recently, you've been getting so close to Chinjiashu that it's making me lose focus in class. You were the one who provoked me first, and now you want to stop it. I think I kind of like you, Lu Yining. I'm willing to give it a try with you, as long as you stay away from that psycho. 10. This person was really as arrogant as ever. The last sentence annoyed me. Watch your mouth. Who's a psycho? He has a name. His name is Chinjiashu. Also, I did like you before, but so what? Does your name have to be engraved in my DNA? If I'm not with you, do I have to erect a monument for myself? Have some self-respect. Don't make me feel sick every time I think of you. If possible, I would rather this domestic abuser in front of me die. After all, he had done such cruel things to me. Why should it all be written off like this? But one can't just immerse oneself in hatred. I'm very lucky to have been given a chance at a new life, so I shouldn't waste my time hating Hitsongwei. He's already a piece of trash, and I will definitely not throw my brand new life into the trash can again. My words irritated Hitsongwei, and his face immediately fell. He slammed the basketball heavily at my feet. Bang! The sound of it hitting the ground was so loud that I was startled and stepped back. Hitsongwei strode forward and punched the wire mesh next to me. The distorted and familiar face in front of me once again brought me that suffocating feeling of being on the verge of death. Immediately after, Hitsongwei reached out and forcefully grabbed my neck. This was the first time he had torn off the so-called school heartthrob mask and exposed his true and ugly face. Brother Tsong, Brother Tsong. The group of his friends beside him also panicked and quickly rushed over, trying to pull his hand away. The fear in my heart welled up again. and I felt nauseous and wanted to vomit, but this time I still tried my best to keep my eyes wide open and make myself look clearly at Hee Seung-wai's face. Hee Seung-wai didn't stop. Instead, he increased the strength. From an angle that only I could see, his expression was gloomy and terrifying. The air in my abdomen was almost being taken away. I opened my mouth and, with all my strength, bit down hard on his hand. Hee Seung-wai shook off his hand in pain, and I finally got a chance to catch my breath. People who get close to a psycho are really unlucky, I heard Hee Seung-wai say extremely contemptuously. At this moment, he had become the Hee Seung-wai who had beaten and kicked me again. All the nightmares broke free from the cage of my memories once more, until Hee Seung-wai swaggered away. I hugged my arms, squatted on the ground, and gasped for breath. When I summoned up the courage to bite him just now, there was anger in my emotions, as well as fear that I forcefully suppressed. It turned out that after being beaten for a long time, when I returned to a familiar situation again, there would still be a physiological reflex. My tears still involuntarily rolled down. More and more classmates stopped to watch, and a sense of helplessness gradually surrounded me. Those scenes of being loudly humiliated by Hee Seung-wai with words, and being beaten to a pulp on the ground by him, which had attracted the neighbors to come out and watch the excitement. Those scenes that I had scarcely forgotten, all came back to my mind. Would anyone come to save me, just like those many times I had silently cried out in the abyss before? In the end, I still shattered myself. What are you looking at? Get lost all of you. It was Chin Jiashu's voice. Through my tears, I saw him like a fierce beast, roaring and driving away the surrounding classmates. He pushed through the sparse crowd and rushed straight towards me. He held me in his arms, and the panicked expression on his face was clearly visible. In such a warm and clean embrace, I hugged Chin Jiashu tightly and finally cried out loud. I really needed such an embrace. Ning Bao, it's me. I should be damned. I came too late. I should have told you earlier. Don't like Hee Seung-wai, you will die. Please don't cry. With me here, it doesn't matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter if you don't want to face it. I can stand in front of you, and I will stand in front of you. Chin Jiashu's hands trembled as he gently stroked the red marks on my neck that had been grabbed. His expression was filled with heartache. There was a hint of scarlet in his eyes, but he held my cold hand. Don't look, don't listen, and don't be afraid, just like you told me. This time, even if I die, I won't let anyone hurt you again. 11. I went back to the classroom with Chin Jiashu. It happened to be the break time, and the classmates in the class were chatting and laughing in their seats. When they saw me appear at the door, everyone shut their mouths as if they had a great deal of tacit agreement. Some people looked at Hee Seung-wai, who was pretending to be calm, but everyone knew in their hearts what had happened at the basketball court just now. I walked back to my seat, and Chin Jiashu directly stood on the podium. He was still wearing that baseball uniform, but his eyes were staring straight at Hee Seung-wai. Just now, there were not a few classmates who saw Hee Seung-wai take action beside the basketball court. Some things, let's talk about them openly today. All along, everyone has had some misunderstandings about me. My father was never a murderer. He was a great policeman and loved my mother very much during his lifetime. He died at the border, not in a cold prison. Hee Seung-wai, when you imposed your own story on me at that time, you made it sound quite believable. Do you want to tell us about your own family situation yourself, or should I tell it for you? The whole class was already silent, and everyone seemed to understand something. Some classmates in the class had already quietly informed Lao Hong, but Hee Seung-wai suddenly stood up violently from his seat, his face ferocious, and rushed to the podium, grabbing Chin Jiashu's collar. Chin Jiashu was half a head taller than Hee Seung-wai. He leaned close to Hee Seung-wai's ear and didn't know what he said. Then Hee Seung-wai suddenly went crazy and stabbed at Chin Jiashu with something in his hand. Chin Jiashu had no intention of fighting back at all, nor did he make any evasive moves, until the classmates saw clearly that it was a utility knife that had deeply pierced into Chin Jiashu's shoulder. Only then did everyone wake up from their shock, regained their senses, and rushed up to pull them apart all at once. Hee Seung-wai was twisted by the arms and pressed to the ground on the other side. Waiting for the teacher to come back and deal with it, I rushed towards Chin Jiashu and checked his wound. I shouted anxiously, "Are you stupid? You didn't even try to dodge." Even though I scolded him, there was still a bright light in Chin Jiashu's eyes, and there was an unquenchable smile. "I promised you that I won't fight again in the future, and I will keep my word, so I won't fight back today. Am I a good boy, Ning Bao?" Chin Jiashu stretched out his hand, trying to hold my finger. My heart couldn't help but beat faster because of the words Ning Bao. This was an intimate name that only my family members knew. When it came out of Qin Jiashu's mouth, it always carried a bit of an indescribable intimacy. I gave Qin Jiashu a glare. I thought that he still had a lot of things to explain to me. In the midst of the chaos, Qin Jiashu leaned close to me and said in a low voice, "Lu Yining, it's so good to meet you again." The end. Extra Chapter 1, Qin Jiashu's perspective. The position where the utility knife stabbed wasn't very deep, but Lao Hong still insisted that Qin Jiashu stay in the hospital ward and finish the full set of examinations before leaving. He originally wanted to go back to class, but both Lao Hong and Lu Yining insisted, so he could only stay. Lying on the hospital bed, Qin Jiashu's thoughts returned to the previous life, when Qin Jiashu was still in high school. He would be woken up by the sounds of beating and scolding from the next door every night. He only knew that his neighbor was a boy of about the same age as himself and seemed to be from the same school. It happened that the male owner next door had a mental illness. Every time he had an attack, he would almost beat his wife to death. His mother had privately called the police, but when the police came, all they could do was mediate, until one day, the boy next door got into a fight with his father, and the two of them fell out of the room together. Even though the boy was covered in blood, Qin Jiashu could tell that he was He Tsungwei from his class, that outstanding student in the school, who was completely different from him. The next day, He Tsungwei stood in front of him arrogantly, and his embarrassed appearance was completely gone. "You won't tell anyone, right? I'm the president of the student union. I know a lot of people in the school and have a good relationship with them. If you're willing to keep it a secret, you can ask me for help whenever you need it at school." Although Qin Jiashu didn't have the habit of gossiping behind others' backs, He Tsungwei's superior tone made him a bit uncomfortable. From that sentence on, he inexplicably disliked this so-called school heartthrob. So, at that time, Qin Jiashu didn't show He Tsungwei a good face. He neither agreed nor refused. After all, in Qin Jiashu's heart, this matter had nothing to do with him at all, and he disdained to spread such gossip, until one night, the escaped criminal that his father had once participated in capturing, the one who got away, somehow found his home. The criminal had come for revenge on purpose. After stabbing a few times in the dark, he fled, but in that winter, due to the untimely rescue, Qin Jiashu lost his mother forever. In this world, only Qin Jiashu was left. No one would love him anymore. Just at this time, someone in the school started spreading the rumor that there was a little psycho in class 5. When the classmates weren't sure who it was, He Tsungwei took the initiative and vividly fabricated the story of Qin Jiashu carrying his mother to find a hospital on a winter night. The whole class believed it to be true, and the rumor spread more and more widely. After all, He Tsungwei was the president of the student union. He was good-looking and had good grades. No one knew that he imposed his own family background on Qin Jiashu just to cover up the fact that his father was a mental patient. But Qin Jiashu had nothing left. He didn't care even more about what others said and became even more self-destructive. He began to completely give up his studies and throw himself into childish violent conflicts. As if this could numb his extremely painful feelings of longing, the day he met Lu Yining was at the door of the convenience store, holding a cup of taro-flavored milk tea. She said indignantly, "You can't say that about Qin Jiashu. He didn't do anything wrong." In front of her were several boys in the class who liked to cause trouble the most. He has no choice about what kind of family he was born into, even if his father is sick. He must be very sad, right? We are his classmates. If Qin Jiashu hears us saying these things behind his back, how will he feel? Even though so many people in the class firmly believed that Qin Jiashu would definitely kill someone, Lu Yining still spoke up loudly for Qin Jiashu. She believed in him. Qin Jiashu began to pay attention to Lu Yining, and he found it more and more difficult to take his eyes off her. Every day, Qin Jiashu knew exactly what kind of small hair ties Lu Yining had on her hands when she collected the exercise books. Sometimes it was a pink heart-shaped one, and sometimes it was a star Dai Lu, a cartoon character. Later, once during the whole class's nap, Lu Yining's hair tie fell to the ground. Qin Jiashu picked it up as if he had found a treasure and secretly put the pink heart-shaped hair tie on his own hand. When he skipped class, he held up the pink heart on his wrist and asked his good friend Qin Jinian, "You tell me, is this really considered liking?" Qin Jinian was also in the same trouble as him. Secretly in love with the class monitor, a little girl named Xu Sui. "I don't know either. Every time I see her, I just think she's so cute." "Yeah, that's right, but his Ningbao must be even cuter." Every time he saw Lu Yining, Qin Jiaxu thought she was really beautiful. Her long eyelashes were like a small fan, and her small lips must be very soft to kiss. She could always make his heart melt involuntarily. Qin Jiaxu also heard that when Lu Yining's parents came to pick her up, they would dote on her and call her Ning Bao. How could someone have such a cute pet name, Ning Bao, Ning Bao? He always muttered it, and it was the most beautiful incantation between his lips and teeth, until he watched Lu Yining fall in love with He Tsungwei, making a big fuss about it and making it known to everyone. But she didn't seem to be afraid at all and still looked like she was moving forward bravely. He Tsungwei clearly didn't care about her at all, just calling her over and sending her away as he pleased. It was a pity that she didn't like him. Later, Qin Jiaxu muddled through high school. Because he didn't perform well in the college entrance examination, he didn't get into his ideal university. He originally wanted to repeat his senior year, but he felt that life had no meaning at all. For such a life with nothing, what was the use of working hard? Even so, he still had a hidden intention and moved to the city where He Tsungwei and Lu Yining were. Because he didn't have a degree, he could only find a job as a car mechanic. The place where Qin Jiaxu worked was just below Lu Yining's company. He didn't want to disturb her, and even less did he want to be regarded as a pervert. He just wanted to be able to watch Lu Yining silently. Only when he knew that she was doing well could he feel at ease. In the WeChat group of old classmates, they would occasionally chat. One day, Qin Jiaxu saw Lu Yining happily sending out the electronic wedding invitations of her and He Tsungwei. Other classmates congratulated them one after another, and the emoticons kept flooding the screen. In the wedding photo, Lu Yining was smiling brightly. She must be the most beautiful bride in the world. Qin Jiaxu silently turned off his phone and lay in the dormitory that was only a few square meters. The smell of engine oil filled his nose. A sour feeling filled his eyes, and a secret pain welled up in his heart. This must be the end of him and Lu Yining, right? His love would never have a chance to be expressed in this lifetime. He heard the news of Lu Yining's death through this classmate group that he almost quit. Qin Jiaxu accidentally learned that when Lu Yining died, there was hardly a single piece of uninjured skin on her body, and it was all covered in bruises. That overwhelming anger engulfed him, especially after seeing that He Tsungwei quickly got a new girlfriend. The last bit of Qin Jiaxu's reason was destroyed. His girl was asleep forever, but the devil was still at large. He didn't know why, but he couldn't sleep day or night because as soon as he closed his eyes, he would see Lu Yining's red eyes from crying, appearing over and over again. On the 7th day after Lu Yining's death, Qin Jiaxu carefully planned and poured gasoline on He Tsungwei. Then, he lit the lighter. He Tsungwei's hateful face finally gradually disappeared in the flames. At this moment, Qin Jiaxu's heart was filled with a long-lost peace. If possible, he hoped that He Tsungwei would go to hell. Qin Jiaxu took out that long-lost high school graduation photo. In the photo, he had managed to squeeze next to Lu Yining with great effort. That day, Lu Yining had a high ponytail and wore a light makeup. He was wearing her hair tie on his hand. At the moment the shutter was pressed, he slightly turned his head towards her. This was the screensaver of Qin Jiaxu's phone and also the only group photo of them in all these years. Qin Jiaxu kissed the photo, and then, he jumped off from the highest point of the city. But the gears of fate turned again. Qin Jiaxu never expected that he would actually return to the age of 18. This was simply the greatest gift from heaven. That was the year when Lu Yining loved He Tsungwei the most, and also the year when Qin Jiaxu loved Lu Yining the most. However, from now on, Qin Jiaxu would love Lu Yining every year. Extra Chapter 2. On the day when the college entrance examination results were announced, Qin Jiaxu went missing. Lu Yining was extremely anxious. She had already checked the results. This time, not only did she get into her dream school, but she was also successfully admitted to her desired major. She wanted to share this good news with Qin Jiaxu the moment she found out. But someone please tell her, why was Qin Jiaxu gone? She ran to Qin Jiaxu's house out of breath. Qin Jiaxu's aunt said that she hadn't seen the boy since the results were released today. Could it be that his grades were not good, and he was hiding and refusing to see her? What a fool! Although she and Qin Jiaxu had agreed that he must get into a school in the same city as hers before she would accept his confession, in fact, even if he didn't, she would still have accepted him. After He Tsungwei was expelled from school, the police took him away, and his whereabouts remained unknown ever since. That devil would pay the price under the sanction of the law. Under Lu Yining's questioning, Qin Jiaxu confessed everything. Knowing that confession would lead to leniency and resistance would lead to severity, Only then did they realize that both of them had been given a second chance at life. Lu Yining alternated between crying and laughing. She asked him if it hurt when he jumped off the building. Qin Jiashu said it hurt quite a lot, so he had beaten He Tsungwei every time he saw him afterwards. Even Lao Hong couldn't stand it anymore. There were row upon row of desks in front of me. And around me were all the familiar faces from my high school days. Suddenly, Lu Yining's phone received a WeChat message, and she quickly looked at her phone. It was a screenshot of Qin Jiashu's grades. There was also a passionate sentence, "Dear girlfriend, I made the cut." It was as if fireworks were exploding above her head, and Lu Yining was so happy that she let out a scream.